Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Walking the Ropes. I'm Caleb, and I'm here with my co-host Blake, and we've got a lot of wrestling to cover from this past week, the week of January 11th, 2021. How you doing,
Yeah.
Blake?
Oh, I'm good. I watched some really good wrestling last night for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely fantastic show. Which I mean, we'll get into here,
Yeah, that's
within
just
the
the one
next
that's fresh on
hour or
my mind.
so, but yeah, some really good wrestling last night.
All week even.
Decent shows all week for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and we've got a bit of a new look from last week's podcast zero, which is really nice. As well as we have I don't know if we want to talk about it this week or save it for next week, but we've got a bit of a change coming to our streaming schedule here.
Yeah.
Um, so there's some exciting stuff going on here. And
More to come.
here's hoping that it all works out pretty good. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I guess we will get into our very first thing of the podcast here. News from the week. I know you've got a few things, I've got a few things here.
Yep.
But I know the first thing, since we're covering this week from Monday last week, the very first piece, which came out Monday and absolutely dropped my jaw. Drew McIntyre testing positive for COVID-19.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I
That
really thought that was going to throw a wrench into the Goldberg match. I thought it wasn't even going to happen, but apparently they are going to be doing it still. So,
Yeah, because I mean it's a 2 week isolation period, so
yeah, but I thought there'd be some worry with Goldberg and whatever, but yeah, seems like we're
oh
going through with it.
oh definitely, like the second I saw it, I was like, oh, okay, so Rumble plans are shifting gears now, and then on Raw they were like, yeah, we're still good, we're still going, and it was like,
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
okay. We're that's good to know and shit. So but that was the first big piece of news this past
Yeah,
week.
all week. Yeah.
So
That
that
was
was
literally as Monday started, that was the first news that came out for wrestling, basically.
well, it was the first thing I think I saw this week. What was because that was like 11 o'clock in the morning, noonish. I
Yeah,
think they posted
probably
it.
right when he got to the arena for Raw that day.
Yeah. So
So,
that was kind of nuts.
yeah. Next point of news. Did you got one that you wanted to specifically talk about, or?
I mean, well, it kind of sucks to stick with the whole COVID thing. But just a few other pieces. Michelle McCool, announced that she tested positive, this past week. So all the best to her as well as McIntyre. Um,
Yeah, I didn't hear about that one actually. So,
yeah, she posted it on her Instagram that she tested positive,
okay.
but thankfully nobody else in the household tested positive.
Well, that's good.
So here's hoping for as minimal symptoms as possible and speedy recovery for both of them. And then the final one, to stick with it a little bit, was Jericho announcing on his podcast this week about that he had tested positive back in like September.
Yeah.
Uh,
Even
um,
yeah, it was really strange. Why didn't he talk about it earlier? But
it just seemed kind of weird, and then as well as like reading about it afterwards and seeing his schedule for the month of September, it felt really weird that there was nothing
yeah,
put out there. And I mean, I don't know, like, I mean, as long as it was him, there was no exposure to anybody else, that's fine. um but it
yeah. I
just
think Dynamite had a couple of recorded segments in that for a couple weeks, didn't they? In September.
that's the thing, I'm not 100% sure because I was wondering that myself. But when I saw that piece on Jericho having tested positive back in September, I was in the middle of other stuff, and so I never thought of it again.
Yeah,
Um,
I didn't think to check it out again either, actually. But
so that'll definitely be something this week that I definitely want to look into, because it seems weird, because thinking to September, I mean, he was on a lot. He
I
might
I
he
think he
might
was
have
on
missed.
commentary a couple times, but I don't think he really missed 2 shows back to back.
See, I don't think so either. But the thing is, a month of pro wrestling flies by, and with the way 2020 was, it was what day of the week is it? um,
Right.
so he might have been gone for 2 weeks, but it was just I don't know the fact that he waited until this past week, and it was very much so like a side comment. Like it wasn't like on the podcast. If you actually listen to
Yeah.
it, it was just like, oh yeah, tested positive back in September. I was fine.
Yeah, and he said he was one of the lucky ones that had no symptoms and whatever, and but yeah.
It just
And then, I mean, even continuing on with that COVID theme there, we had Dave Meltzer. He mentioned that he had heard of a couple other superstars either just getting over COVID or testing positive for COVID around the same time as Drew did. But there were no confirmations this week from WWE about anybody being those specific ones. Sorry.
yeah. I didn't see any more about anybody, like any specific names basically. But
Yeah.
yeah, there was a few from Raw, a few from SmackDown, and a few from NXT, I believe, was on Meltzer's report there,
I
if I'm not
think that's
mistaken.
what they said. Yeah, it was like 4 total from Raw, 1 from SmackDown, and I think 2 or 3 from NXT.
Yeah. So
So,
I mean, if any of that is true, any recent positives or anything like that, once again, wishing the speediest of recoveries to everybody.
yeah.
Um Today actually, I have in my notes here, the WWE Untold documentary, AJ Styles Royal Rumble debut, started airing
Oh,
today. I will more than likely watch that after the cast here.
yeah, no
That
doubt.
is,
I didn't hear about that.
yeah, that starts airing on the WWE Network this week. Not sponsored, but I mean, by all means, if you want to sponsor, we
Oh,
got
yeah,
you.
that would be great.
Um, that
Yeah, something else that was interesting announced this week was Stone Cold Steve Austin is gonna be on Dark Side of the Ring season 3 in Brian Pillman's episode,
very very
which yeah,
very good show. I've
yeah, it
enjoyed
is.
absolutely everything I've seen. I didn't see a whole lot of season one. Season two
No.
I watched a lot of because the topics for season two were very much so ones that I was like, I know of these things. I want to know more.
Yeah,
And I mean the biggest one was obviously the two-part season premiere, which was Chris Benoit. Um
yeah. That was a great show or great episodes, whatever you wanted to call it. Really awesome.
yeah, I mean, such a tragedy, and I mean, like living
Yeah.
through that period as a kid, as a Chris Benoit fan. um and I've read things over the years, but to really have it all in one place and be told just very honestly, getting to hear from his son,
Yeah.
Nancy's sister, stuff like that, like it was absolutely fantastic.
Well, there were interviews with people that, were never interviewed before, and that's
Exactly.
just it was so cool to see. Well, I shouldn't say cool, but it was just such a neat thing to finally get an inside look at. Because really, when we were kids, all we saw was Benoit get drafted to ECW, uh, and then he didn't show up for the pay-per-view.
Yeah, like it was such a
Like,
crazy series of events in that. But and a really nice tidbit about that, though, like that set of episodes, those two episodes. Um I know for me, I don't know if you are aware of it, the person they actually got to play Chris Benoit in the episodes is a local independent wrestler around here, Tyson Dukes, who was actually
yeah.
on the Cruiserweight Classic. I think he got eliminated first round, and then he had issues crossing the border um, to go back for the other tapings.
Yeah, and didn't he also have a potential AEW taping at one point too?
I had seen, I believe it was on his Twitter or Instagram or something, he was supposed to be at one of the AEW shows just right after everything shut down. Like it was like that week or the week after, I think he was supposed to, because he had posted something about getting new gear made. If you've
Hmm.
not watched Tyson Dukes, I greatly recommend it. Like one of
Yeah.
the best, very old school, feel pro wrestlers. Not a sports entertainer, a pro wrestler, and
Yeah, and watching him live is something totally different than I've seen a lot of wrestlers live. I've seen him make saves in matches that I don't think any other wrestler could have been able to make,
oh,
or very few at the
exactly.
very least.
So like there's some good content on Tyson Dukes out there. I know one promotion you can look for, which is the promotion we've seen him at, Smash Wrestling.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know if that stuff's still on the Impact Plus. I
it
know it
might
was
be.
for a long time because that's where I was watching it if I wasn't there live. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure where they find. I know you can find a lot of Smash stuff on YouTube.
Oh, for sure.
Um, so a bunch of Tyson's matches will be on that.
Yep. And then kind of finishing up the news here. Do you have more?
I have that a kind of funny one. If Goldberg wins at the Royal Rumble, he will become the oldest WWE champion ever, beating out Vince McMahon. Please
and
don't let that happen.
and I mean, how old is Goldberg?
Oh, I should have written down that number, but I can quickly look it here.
Like early 60s?
Yeah.
Early 60s being nice.
He's 54. I think you owe him an apology.
It's as soon as I get the apology from him for squashing the Fiend, inserting himself into matches where there is young talent that could be taking the spots. As soon as I receive those apologies, I'll apologize to Goldberg for calling him 60.
In fairness, some of those are bad booking decisions, but he
Yeah,
has
like
enough
it,
power to
it's
say no to.
it's definitely not him walking into the writers' room going, "I want this match," but he also picks up the call and says, "Yeah, I'll do that match."
He has the ability to say, I don't think that's a good idea,
Exactly.
and doesn't.
uh,
Yeah.
how
Other than
old was
that,
McMahon when he won the title? Like what? Like
uh, oh,
50?
it's just a couple days difference or something like
Oh,
that. Like,
really?
it's only gonna
Okay.
be a couple, yeah, or even just a couple months. Like,
Okay. Yeah,
yeah.
because I'm trying to think of like when he won the world title because McMahon is 70 something now. I know that for sure. 70, 73, 74,
Vince is 75 years old now.
75. Okay. So I mean, even if it was like 2000, like yeah. So what, probably
He
99 then.
was, yeah, so Vince won the title at 54 and Goldberg is 54. So it will be whatever the month difference is.
Wow. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah, please
Yeah.
no. Please no.
Yeah, and other than that, I don't know about any other news that we won't cover in the shows that come up,
Well, the
unless you had
last
one.
bit which was announced last night, coincidentally, as Hard to Kill was starting. Uh
Hmm.
but WWE doesn't pay attention to their competition. Uh
No.
uh they announced the location and dates for the next 3 WrestleManias. They announced WrestleMania this year will be at Raymond James Stadium
Right.
as a 2-night event again.
Good. Yeah, it
Um
should be.
and there was in the press release talking about ticket information coming out. So
Okay.
from the looks of it, there will be in-person live fans at this year's WrestleMania. So that is, hopefully we come out of that event with it being 2 nights in that with everything being okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully nothing blows up over it by
Well,
that
yeah,
time.
and I hope that going forward, WrestleManias will be 2 night events because the 7 to 9 hour ones that we've had in the past I was falling asleep during matches I wanted to kind of watch.
Well, I can remember, it was Mania. Well, this year will be 37th, so 35. It was me, you, and our friend Mitch. We went to
Yep.
the theater to actually watch it. It was the first Mania I've ever actually gone to a movie theater to watch, and it's obviously right now with COVID and that it's still going to be hard, but like next year if it's cleared up, if you have the opportunity and a local movie theater is airing WrestleMania, it is so worth whatever the ticket price is to sit
Yeah.
in a room of wrestling fans, people with similar interests, and like it was the closest feeling you could get to being in the arena for Mania without paying the money and the travel and that to get to Mania. Like
Well,
that was the
yeah.
year Kofi won the title, the world title.
Yeah,
Um
like
I still have it on my phone. I have the video cuz I was filming it. The entire theater jumped to their feet basically cheering, and um like it was one of those things that you wouldn't have gotten that experience sitting at home on the couch. Um
and to especially because Mania is one of those most expensive ones, so you to get there, you are really waiting the whole year saving money to do
yeah.
that. Probably years to do it. Um, it's amazing. Like the reason I knew about this is because I think I'm the one that told you about it being at a theater or something.
Well, I
Um,
had seen through the years that they were at theaters, but the only issue is growing up, being the only one in my household who liked wrestling, and the nearest theater playing it was 45 minutes away. You know, you
yeah,
couldn't talk the parents into being like, "Hey, can we drive 45 minutes to watch a 4 to 5 hour show and then drive home at midnight?"
exactly.
you
Well, see,
know.
luckily for me, my grandpa, he was willing to suffer through whatever. And
Yeah,
so he came to 3 SummerSlams in a row. The
nice.
first one being, Brock demolishing Cena,
Okay.
and then, Orton cashing in that year on the following year on Bryan, I
Yeah,
think.
because that was Brian Cena.
Yeah, I think that was the following year, and then I can't remember the main event for the year after that, but, I remember those 2 because if you couldn't tell, this one, I used to be a really big Cena fan as a kid, and, yeah, so
Um, But yeah, I remember but I do think it was you sent the message that year being like, "Hey, they're playing it at the theater." And it was like,
yeah,
"Oh, I didn't know they still did that. I know they used to. I never got to go. Like, let's do it. Like I got the network,
yeah.
but screw it." And having the
Well, it
network was
yeah,
actually really handy because once again, as we said, you're talking a 7 hour show, and about halfway through in a theater after you've drank a lot of pop and whatnot, you gotta whiz, and so and like really awkward bathroom story here about it, but it was so funny because I'm like, okay, gotta go take a whiz. So I pull it up on my phone and I head out of the theater to the bathroom. And as I walk in, I can hear the show still, but it's not coming from like the theater. It's coming from the bathroom. And as I walk in, here's the dude standing at the opposing urinal with his phone sitting there watching Mania on the network.
didn't wanna miss a thing.
And you know, sure enough, washes his hands, heads out, and I walk up and I put my phone up and I'm like,
Yeah.
I guess it's just the thing we're doing.
Well, I mean, yeah, you don't wanna miss it. It's the biggest show of the year, and especially with Kofi winning that one, that was huge.
That was huge. Rollins, I mean, opening the night with Lesnar and winning that, like that got a pop.
Well, clearly Lesnar didn't wanna be in the building for the rest of the night.
Well, no,
Like,
because he doesn't get the main event. Anyways,
yeah, like,
um, before I get heated on there's enough nuclear heat warnings coming through the show.
probably.
But yeah, so they announced Mania was 2 nights this year, Raymond James Stadium in Tampa Bay.
Yep.
Next year will be, they only announced one night. They only announced the Sunday for next year. So we'll see if that changes over the course of the year. But next year will be AT&T in Arlington, Texas. And then 2023 we will get what was supposed to be the location this year, which is SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. Um, which once again was only a one night announcement.
Oof.
But the thing is, it'll be a big wait and see type thing. I
Yeah,
think.
these might just be tentative. Like we have the spot on the building. Now we're just kind of waiting on the confirmation and stuff
Well,
like
you
that.
got to figure doing 2 nights this year because you know damn well they're not packing the stadium. So that way, if they can even do like a 50% capacity over 2 nights, they they kind of make up their one night kind of gate.
Yeah, probably.
So, um, but yeah, that's about all the news that was big enough through the week that I wrote down.
Yeah, that we won't mention that happened on shows through the rest of the week.
Exactly. So with that being said, I guess we will get in here to our results. So obviously, just gonna run through the week here. Try not to spend 2.5 hours on on show results because I mean there was a lot of shows.
Yeah,
Which
no.
also leads into the updated streaming schedule for us once again, which we will talk about later. But
Yeah, exactly.
I guess we start with Monday.
Yep, which is the longest show of the week unless there's a pay-per-view.
I I know there's people that agree with me. I know there's people that disagree. I wish they'd go back to 2 hours.
It was cool when it was the Super Show and we had tons of stuff going on story-wise to be able to pack in that 3 hours, but that time has come and gone, and it's time to go back to 2 hours. It works for SmackDown, it works for Dynamite, it works for NXT. Why doesn't it work for Raw?
Well, here's the issue. They could totally stay 3 hours because they've got the talent to fill a 3 hour show. But when you've got
Yes,
a 3 hour show and you only put 8 to 10 guys on the card,
and spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes opening the show with drama.
it's just I I'm like if that's what you're gonna do, shorten it to 2 hours. Don't make us sit there through all the in between shit that you obviously
Yeah,
put in to fill 3 hours, and just
exactly.
give us a decent 2 hour show. If you're gonna stay 3 hours, you've got hundreds of people signed to your company. You can do decent stuff. That doesn't have to be 5 minute matches. You can give us a show full of decent stuff um with segments still. Like I'm not saying cut out like it's such a dirty word anymore because WWE's made it that way, but you don't have to cut out the sports entertainment side of pro wrestling, which
Exactly.
it's been shown. It's been shown in NXT. It's been shown in AEW, and it's even Impact, where
Oh, yeah.
we can be professional wrestling. We can have good professional wrestling matches with sports entertainment. You can't have one and not have the other. There
Exactly.
that is the product today.
Yeah,
I will argue all day with the cornets and that of the world. That is the product today. The product has
yeah.
changed. They are one and the same. You just have to balance, which obviously for Raw's sake, and especially SmackDown this week, which we'll get into, it hasn't had that balance.
Exactly, and, like, they say, "Oh, it's" like, they're arguing changing of the times. Do you think Harley Race or enjoyed the, I cannot speak right now.
You are having a tough time.
Yeah, I don't think he enjoyed the, ruthless aggression and, the Attitude Era and all that. I highly doubt he was a fan of it at the start. Just for example, I have no idea. I'm just making an example of a legend who probably didn't like the change. It happens. Change happens. You have to deal with it.
We're not in the 80s anymore. We
Exactly.
don't have y- granted, the times have shifted in general in the world. That's like
Exactly.
people calling for like You know, we don't need like the stage setups that we have nowadays. Yeah, we do. It's the times. The
Yeah.
technology has evolved. The technology is right there. Why the hell wouldn't we have a decent stage with the screens and stuff like that? That is what the
Yeah.
product is. That is the way that it has evolved. We Why go back to you know, a logo with a curtain underneath it? We're not in the 80s
Exactly.
anymore.
Well,
Sure, there's flippy spots and super kicks and leg slaps and shit like that nowadays. But guess what? The guys are smaller nowadays. They're not Hulk Hogan and Macho Man and guys like that.
those people just don't exist anymore. Humans aren't built like that anymore. Like,
You have the odd ones. But the thing is like the best way to look at it, because I've heard a lot of people say it. Somebody like put side by side Hulk Hogan and Brian Cage, both big
yeah,
guys. But the thing is, you'd never watch Hulk Hogan do a Spanish fly off the top rope.
no,
That is
you
the
wouldn't watch
product
it.
nowadays.
Yeah,
Brian
you wouldn't watch
Cage.
Hulk Hogan barely go to the top rope, I don't think. I can't remember a time he ever went to the top rope.
Like sure, back in the day you had big guys do some stuff. Like you had like Vader.
Yes,
Vader
there
was
were the
one.
odd ones.
Even at times somebody like Yokozuna. Like
Yeah, I
he
mean, he'd
would
go up to the middle rope
he would
and
do
stuff
some
like that.
shit on some shows, like if you really watch back. But
Yeah,
the
I didn't
thing
watch a whole lot of Yokozuna, but yeah.
but the thing is, like that is the product nowadays. You've got the
Exactly.
Brian Cages and the Keith Lees and last night Moose.
Yes.
You've got these guys who are these big athletes, but they don't need to just hit punches and clotheslines and big
No.
boots and body slams. They can do flips. Sure, sometimes the spots, ones that like spots that I can't stand are like the gather outside and wait for a dive.
Yeah, that's
That
a
needs to be the way they do it now needs to be done away with, and it needs to be done in a better sense. Obviously, for the spot's sake, like you need everybody there, but a lot of the time it happens too soon, and you've got all the guys standing there like huddling up, and then
yeah.
the dive happens, and it's long
Yeah.
enough for you to sit and go, oh,
Well, exactly, and sometimes, like, they'll set up for that spot, and they'll be beating on each other, and that's when the spot looks amazing, is when they didn't expect the landing to come in. It makes it look more real, and I know it's not real, wrestling's still real to me, damn it, sort of thing.
oh
Like,
yeah,
I enjoy when we get proper storytelling.
oh
Like
exactly, um, and like one of the last big things when it comes to like the dives and the product changing and that is just the wrestling as a whole has changed. We've
exactly.
we've got an entirely different set. Like one big thing that I keep seeing is people being like the DDT
Yeah.
when it was brought in, when you know I want to say Jake was the first one who did it. But he was the
He's the
one
one
who
who made it
definitely made it
famous.
famous.
Yeah.
Sure, that was his finisher. Sure, somebody like Diener nowadays uses it.
Well, even Crazy Steve is using it. He's jumping from the top of the middle rope and doing it. Like,
But people are being like it's just a throw in their move. And the most recent example of it is the Canadian Destroyer.
yes.
The thing is, as time changes, we can't have the same moves be the big moves anymore. Sure, 30 years ago, 15 guys could have used the DDT as their finisher. But nowadays, it is a common move. So if you have the two or three guys like the Diener, who
Yeah.
the thing is, he makes it look good, or like a modification. You know, McIntyre uses the Claymore now, but when he used to do the Future Shock, or
Yeah.
Ambrose when like he does it now, the paradigm shift. But even like the it was basically Future Shock, but Dirty Deeds when he was in WWE as Ambrose.
Yeah.
Um, like it can still be used. It's just if you use it as the plain base move, you've got to make it look powerful. And if you modify it, you
Exactly.
have to do it right. Canadian Destroyer, people are bitching and complaining that we see it in every match now. Okay, well, that is just the next move in that long list. Super kick. Look at the super kick.
Hmm.
The Bucks, sure, they hit it 3 times in their match, but that's still the move. Shawn
But it
had to
can
hit it
still
once or
finish a
twice.
match.
But
Like,
it's got to be done right. The
yeah.
Canadian Destroyer can still be used as a finisher, but it can be used 3 times in a match.
Well, yeah, an example of it still being used as a finisher is the Panama Sunrise for
It,
Adam Cole. It's
exactly.
he comes off the second rope to make it look more powerful. Like, it just, you add something to it.
Yeah, like it's just one of those things where the times change and people don't like it.
Yeah, exactly. And I am, for one, am fully fine with change. We grew up with Cena and Batista. I am fully behind Kenny, Cody, all of these smaller guys now. I want to see these guys. Like, I still love these guys. I mean, this guy, sorry, I put my wrong hand down again. This guy here, he's amazing. Like,
Well,
I
I mean,
love them all, but
the thing is 3 of the 4 posters behind you, if you think of it logically, comparative to the previous generations, those are the small guys. Somebody like a
yeah,
Balor, somebody
exactly.
like a Styles, um, like they are the smaller guys,
Yeah,
and
I point at Ambrose there because now he's Moxley and he's an entirely different character. And Ambrose was great, but Moxley is something else.
exactly.
And
Uh,
yeah, so
but
but
yeah,
let's actually
let's
get
get
into
into the
recapping
results.
Raw.
Yeah. So show opens with Hunter coming out welcoming us to the Thunderdome, to Raw.
Yeah, I honestly thought he was stripping Drew. I thought that's what he was coming out to do.
I had that gut feeling that that's what was going to happen because once again, coming up to that point, we didn't know what was going on for the Rumble.
Exactly, we had no idea. Like, we find out later in the show here, but right up until this point we had nothing.
Yeah, and then you have Orton come out, and he does his whole bit. Like it's the like he's still keeping it really fresh. Orton's really good at that.
Oh yeah,
Orton's good at being a bad guy, and Orton's good at making you hate him. But it's the same
absolutely.
bit he's been running the past few weeks, which it's you're old.
You're old, yeah.
I can take you out. And
Yeah.
he challenges Hunter to a fight. Hunter gives him a good right hand after a balls in the purse comment, which I knew it was coming. Like the second he
Oh
started
yeah.
walking away, I'm like, he's gonna mention that Hunter's balls are in Stephanie's purse, and sure
Yep.
enough,
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
but he challenges him to a fight, and I enjoy the commentary team being like, he never accepted, he just hit him.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool,
I
cool.
They
So
made it seem like I, for one, thought with the commentary team doing that, I thought that we were gonna pull a classic WWE where we weren't gonna get this match. This was not gonna happen in any way, shape, or form.
I I was waiting to see how they were gonna do it because I was like, I don't know if we're gonna get the fight that like Orton was trying to get Hunter to go for or what, which obviously later in the show we find out what we actually got, which was a bit of a fight, but
Oh, it was some. At least we got a little bit of some history for us, which was nice.
but we'll get to that. And then the first match of the night, Charlotte Flair, Lacey Evans, which something that I put in my notes here, which was really odd, is we got the entrances, we come back from commercial, and like they're in the ring, they're ready to start, and then they're like, McIntyre is gonna talk to us real
Y-
quick. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah,
And he told us like no severe symptoms and whatnot, which was really nice to hear, but it just felt like really
absolutely.
odd placement for
Yeah, I think they should have done it just before the Lacey Evans and Charlotte interviews, and it would have worked just fine. But it just made this match flow kind of break, and yeah.
yeah, very much. But the match was going. We had the pre-match interviews, which Lacey Evans,
She
I'm
dedicated her match to Rick.
I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, so we're going with this angle. Okay. 'Cause like
Yeah,
she like plumped up as she went. I was just like, this seems
Yeah, we're
uh
doing a little bit of old school WWE telling with the women's again, and I don't necessarily hate it if they go the right way with it. It's
it's
just
gotta be the right way with it.
exactly.
And then Flair coming out, like
Really surprised me, honestly, and it shouldn't have because he was there last week. Um, but
so, but it was one of those moments where I'm like, yep, here comes Flair. And like the second he came out, I knew the outcome of the match. Um,
no, it was obvious.
which is a really disappointing factor. That's one
Yeah,
thing with WWE, not to go off on a big tangent here to continue the results, but when something like that happens, 9 times out of 10, the immediate result you get in your head is the result. He came out and I went, okay, so Charlotte's losing after last week. Sure,
exactly.
there was a chance she wasn't going to lose the match.
And it looked for a second like she almost was gonna get Lacey to lose there, but just yeah, Rick's the best guy in the business, and
Dirtiest player in the game.
yeah, I thought that was his nickname. I wanted to say it, and then I was like, wait, isn't that attributed to somebody else?
But
But
Lacey Evans defeats Charlotte, obviously with assistance from Ric Flair. Um, and then
yeah,
we move on to the next segment, which was the first of many like this through the show, which I
yeah,
very much disliked. Like, very much disliked.
yeah,
So we got, it was supposed to be Jeff Hardy and Elias. Elias hurt himself. Um, and
playing an instrument probably.
we
Who
got
knows?
Jackson Riker and Hardy, which ended up being like a 30-second match.
Yeah, for whatever reason.
Um,
Well, we
which
would find out later.
Jackson Riker wins, and
Yeah,
then Hardy gets on the mic, and suddenly we get the match we were supposed to get,
yeah, and
which
it's
was Hardy and
interesting.
Elias.
Elias, before the match started, looks at Riker and he's like, "Do not get involved." Is
I
basically what he
just,
should have done. Like,
but like you could hear it in his tone of voice, which that's another, like I said with Flair coming out, that's another one of those situations where I was like, so Riker's obviously gonna kind of do something in the match, or they're gonna go the route where he's absolutely oblivious and doesn't
exactly.
understand that Elias was being like that way.
Yeah,
Like, don't help me, which
yeah.
we ended up getting that.
Exactly. And Elias got absolutely pissed off at Riker for not helping out after Jeff hits the twist of fate and the swanton to beat him because obviously Jeff's amazing. And of course, if he gets a proper match in, he's going to beat somebody like Elias.
um,
Like,
Something I noticed really quick about Jeff, they put together a history of Jeff and Orton video that was like on social media and that, and I watched
yeah,
it, and like the very first thing they show is the Swanton off the set from '07, and Jeff has not aged in 13, 14 years. Like, that is
no.
terrifying. Jeff has not aged one bit. And I
When he
mean,
lets his hair grow out in his beard, it's a bit gray, but other than that,
like he you could probably put him side by side and it'd be very hard to tell. And I mean, thing is though, Matt is very much the same way. If he puts himself in the gear of like 2007 Matt
and they
Hardy,
do constantly.
and he looks like he even put himself in like the V1 gear at one point. I don't know if it was just before his departure from WWE or not. And I looked at it and
I
I'm
think
like,
so.
bro, that gimmick was like 15 years ago and you look the same as when you did that
Exactly.
gimmick 15, 16 years ago. Like, that is there's guys that over the course of 3 years age like no tomorrow, and these guys haven't aged that much in 15, 16 years. Like, it's
Well, like
crazy.
looking at Hogan and Flair, for instance, they age just all of a sudden. Like,
Flair's hit very quick, but
yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
it's
he's still the guy he is, but he's just the woos don't have the
No,
the
they
emph
don't.
behind them anymore.
They don't. But still love me some Flair, and there was a very good airport story this past week on Twitter, but I'll get into that later. Regarding
Sure.
Flair. And then we got the second segment.
Yeah, they put these back to back for whatever reason.
We got Sheamus and Keith Lee versus Miz and Morrison, which came out of a backstage segment. I like that they are doing these interviews in like a ring in the back, which is nice.
Yeah, I don't know when they started doing that, probably sometime during
When
COVID.
they got into the first location of the Thunderdome.
Yeah, so wherever they set that up, it's really cool and it works really well.
Yeah, where I'm trying to figure out where it was that the first Thunderdome was, because they're in Tropicana Field now. But
Yeah,
anyways,
MetLife? No,
no, because
that's just another.
MetLife's a stadium in
Well,
New
I think
Jersey.
MetLife also sponsors other
Oh, they
arenas
probably do,
too,
but
so
it was like American Airlines Center or some shit like
something
that.
like that. Yeah.
But anyways, we get that tag match. And during it, I jumped. And I was actually afraid for Morrison's health afterwards. When Keith Lee freaking hits him in the corner and the damn turnbuckle freaking blows off, and like my favorite is the facial reaction of Keith Lee. He's like, oh,
Yeah, like, and I still can't tell if that was meant to happen or not.
oh,
Like,
guaranteed it wasn't. Because the thing is, when they show the replay, the way he hit Morrison, the pin pops. Like he hit
yeah.
him from under and the turnbuckle pops.
And it's not like people hadn't been using the ropes like they had been the whole night, because people had been springing off them. Morrison had been hopping off them that entire start of that match, and then it just all of a sudden bang, and then they were like, we're gonna go to commercial. We're gonna go to commercial.
And when they come back, they've got the dude like tightening the freaking. But the
Yeah,
thing is if you actually look up Keith Lee on YouTube, there's actually a compilation of that happening. Because the way the turnbuckle is inserted is basically just a pin, and so if
yeah.
it's hit, like it has to be hit with force. And I mean, you're talking Keith Lee. I mean, the dude, he's a big freaking dude, and
I don't want him running at me.
running at that speed. He's done that in multiple promotions. And the best part is he has the same facial reaction almost every time, of cuz it takes a split second of like I'm in the mode of I'm beating this guy up, and then it's like, "Oh,
Whoops,
well,
I
don't use
broke
the
it.
top rope cuz there isn't one."
The most interesting one to break for me is the middle rope, because what do you do when the middle rope's broken? Because there's a lot of stuff that gets used with the middle rope, and you don't notice it until it's gone. Like,
Well, the only rope that I think wouldn't affect the match as a whole would be the bottom, if the bottom blew out.
yeah, for sure. Because you can still do your springboard stuff off the second and top if you really need to. Most people hop up to the second and third without even touching the first.
Exactly.
So,
But yeah. So
but this
we
was a really good match. I
it was
mean,
it was decent. It was.
like, yeah.
With Keith Lee and Sheamus picking up the victory.
Yeah,
Um,
with Sheamus tagging himself in
as
as
a throwback to the weeks prior.
exactly, yeah. And they kind of started arguing right as they flipped to this Triple H segment in the back.
Yeah, where Hunter ends up accepting Orton's offer for the fight.
Yep, exactly.
And
And
then
we
sorry.
got the match for Keith Lee and Sheamus.
It
It
comes
just
back and suddenly they're like, I like even the commentary team is like, I guess this is what's happening.
yeah, and like it was another really good match, and I think yeah, we had Keith Lee going for the Spanish Fly again, but Sheamus clearly was paying attention, and he was able to actually get out of it, which was
Yeah.
really good storytelling actually. And then we had Keith Lee picking up the win because Keith Lee's amazing, and then
He is a ridiculously good athlete.
yeah,
Like if
exactly,
he does not get a main event spot for a decent run,
one of those
they
two over your shoulder.
yeah, 100%. Well, I mean, This one's
Well,
got a
not that
different color
color, but
strap now, but you know.
it'll. I mean, yeah, but I'm not gonna pay the $400 to get a new blue one.
Well, you have to go to an event for it to be 400. Go on the
All right,
website,
fair
it's a
enough,
lot
but
more. But
yeah,
but yeah, so very very good match though. And then we got McIntyre again.
yeah. Which why did we have him twice? Which well, again, whatever. Also,
Where
where was he recording these? He
I
it
would
looks like
assume
he
from
was,
his hotel room.
but the wall behind him looked like one of the rooms they were just in the arena somewhere.
Yeah, well, I
I,
sure
I
as shit hope not, because that is very very stupid on many
well,
many parts.
well, it almost looked like the wall that we see a lot of times they have up in Gorilla, like because they put up like this room kind of thing in
Yeah, yeah,
behind
yeah.
Gorilla, and it's like red and this kind of gray metal like material almost, and it
So
looked like he was just standing in Gorilla.
the only difference between that is the wall and gorilla. If you actually look, it's just like an overly saturated picture of a crowd,
Oh,
actually.
is it?
Yeah,
Okay,
so
I've
that's
only
the
really seen
only
it quickly.
reason why I know he like, I mean, that would be the utmost stupidity to have him in gorilla
For
after
sure,
testing positive. But I would
absolutely.
assume it was from his hotel room, because
I would hope so.
I mean, if he tested positive, the first thing I would be doing is like, you got to go to your hotel room and isolate.
Get
Like,
the
you
hell out of here,
die.
like yeah.
Um, but
But
we
yeah,
get him saying that he accepts Goldberg's challenge for the Rumble, which we all
it was gonna happen.
all knew.
Uh, I mean, Drew says in this that he was a fan of Goldberg, and I mean, yeah, we all were.
Oh yeah, 100%. But
Like,
yeah,
nobody was mad when Goldberg first won his first world title for WWE when he came back.
I can't even
It was
say anybody was like, there was like, not everybody was happy about it, but when he came back and beat Lesnar at Survivor Series, the way they
yeah,
handled it was really well done. I know when he came back, it was one of those holy shit, Goldberg is back moments.
exactly.
But it's just one of those things where it was like, that could have been it. We didn't need him squashing Kevin Owens, being at Mania. We didn't need him squashing the Fiend. We
Well, yeah, because Owen at that point wasn't Owens and Jericho doing the Festival of Friendship
That
stuff,
was right
and
after they split up, because it was Fastlane where Owens and Goldberg fought, and Jericho came out and basically screwed Owens up.
yeah.
Um,
But that's probably going to be a show we do in the future at some point, probably.
oh, guaranteed, guaranteed. But we go from
Uh,
that to Xavier Woods and Retribution's T-Bar. I fucking hate that name. Oh my
yeah, Xavier Woods, man. I'm just kidding.
god. Yeah, Consequences Creed is where it's at for all of
Yeah.
you who watched Impact, TNA,
TNA slash
in
NWA.
like '06. I want to say was
Yeah,
Consequences Creed time. Um,
exactly.
but we got that match.
T-Bar hits the eyes wide shut and wins. That's basically all we need.
I I don't know. I feel like Retribution had a kind of decent start, and then
It was similar to Nexus.
it
It was
flatlined.
really, yeah, and it flatlined harder than Nexus did.
And
Like,
the worst part is, you got somebody as talented as Mustafa Ali, um, being the leader. Like, that's the thing. Like, I you can't blame it on any of the wrestlers.
well, you
It
got
is
Dominic Dijakovic and
uh
Dio Madden.
Mia Yim as
Yeah,
Reckoning. Like, you're talking
like,
some of the best pure athletes in that company. It's from a
yeah.
writing standpoint. It really
Oh,
is.
it's
Like,
entirely
I don't put the blame on any of them, because like I said, like, you've got somebody like Mustafa Ali as the leader. I mean, he is, as a pound for pound athlete at his size, amazing.
yeah.
But it's one of those, they don't seem to handle these groups, because like, you brought up Nexus, which
It lasted a while. Like they
It
went
lasted
for
a
a good while.
decent while, but then we got the core out of it, if you
Right.
remember the core.
I mean, I try to forget it. We
Which
got Ezekiel Jackson becoming something out of that, which was kind of nice. And then it just became nothing again.
yeah,
Like,
it just, but yeah, it
but moving on from that, the retribution angle, we get the third of this same sort of thing for whatever reason. We get Bobby Lashley going against Riddle
for the
for the
title.
For this. I personally hate this United States title.
So I really like the render before the match. Like it looks really, really nice in the render, and then you see the actual physical belt, and it does not hold
I
the
mean,
same.
I'm of the opinion if they just switch the position of the eagle and the word champion, it's a much better design already.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. But I mean, you've also got to remember, I mean, through the years, we've had so many like physical changes of the belt for so many belts. And like the
yeah,
only belt that I think I can say has remained the exact same from the time I started up
yeah.
until last year was the United States Championship. It's, I think, the only design.
And maybe that's why I'm so against this new one. Call
Like
me biased, but I feel
the
like that United States title was perfect and it didn't ever need to be changed.
the
It
only
needs to be
change of the
repainted.
design, the only change of the design was the logo when they rebranded for the
Yeah.
network.
The issue with WWE was with that United States title, they'd let it get scratched up and they'd let it get whatever in it and they wouldn't repaint it. Like, if they kept the title in good condition, there was no reason to update it.
Exactly. But anyways, yeah, we had Riddle and Lashley for the title. Um which actually
I mean,
started with a pre-match beatdown.
yes.
Um
Which of course, but that also comes back to the match they had last week where Riddle did the same thing.
it was a
Um,
callback. Like it wasn't just thrown in there. But
no, exactly. I mean, if Lashley did that, it's Lashley. He can do that. Like, I'm not
pretty
gonna say
well.
no. I don't hate Lashley. I'm really enjoying the Hurt Business. It's just there's just some things that are hit or miss for them with me.
That's another one of those situations where you've got good athletes. You got somebody like MVP who on the mic is just killer. And once again, it is just poor creative
Yeah, it
because
is.
we know
And
how they work. We know how the WWE does it. It's creative. It goes through a room of
yeah,
writers and is presented in front of the boss, and that is that. It that is their system, and that's why once again the Hurt Business, which I agree, I think it is a fantastic pairing of all of them.
oh yeah, it's
Um,
beautiful.
I believe they have the ability to work them up to a similar stature. Obviously, not overnight.
No,
But it
I
could
mean
definitely
NWO wasn't overnight.
exactly. But we could get a similar sense of evolution
Yeah,
out of these
they
guys
oh for sure,
because
and
you got
MVP is the
MVP.
perfect person for it.
He's the best way I can compare him is he's the Ric Flair of
Yeah,
evolution. He
yeah,
is.
exactly. And oh, people get mad saying comparing MVP to Ric Flair. He, I think, is still the longest reigning United States champion. I could be wrong. Maybe Ambrose beat him out, but
That's a very good point.
an MVP, either way, he didn't get the recognition he deserved in his first run with WWE. He should have been main event level the whole time. I mean, maybe not the whole time, but mid card and then bump to main event, obviously. But
Oh yeah.
he definitely should have had a run with at least Big Gold or the spinner belt, one of the two. So the spinner belt and MVP would have actually made sense, I think.
So, longest reign of the United States Championship, um, before it was WWE, because you got to remember that is the title that transitioned
Yep.
when they bought WCW. The longest reigning champion was actually Lex Luger for
Okay.
523 days from this was from 89 to 90.
Okay.
Dean Ambrose is the longest reigning champion under the WWE banner at 351 days from 2013 to 2014.
Okay. Yeah, I knew that MVP held it for a long time, and then as I said that, I kind of vaguely remembered Ambrose holding it for a really long time.
I'll be
So
completely honest, I forgot that he was that long of a reign.
Ambrose or MVP?
Ambrose.
Yeah,
Like
that's.
MVP, I remember. I don't know if maybe it was just he had it a lot back in the day,
I think he only has 4 reigns with
but
it.
yeah,
And yeah, he was juggling it with Matt, and they were a tag team.
because that was one of the segments I can remember very vividly from that time was the pizza eating competition and
I
Matt
remember the
barfing
basketball one.
all over MVP, and as a kid, I pissed myself.
Yeah.
I probably still
Some
would as an adult, so
I mean, sometimes silly works in wrestling, and that's an example of it. Like,
yep. Yep. But yeah, so Lashley beats Riddle.
with the Hurt
Um
Lock, which is a really nice name for what used to be the Master Lock, a full Nelson.
Full
Like,
Nelson, yeah.
I really like that name.
Oh yeah, it is for the way they're going with it all, it's one of those
Yeah,
situations where it was cleverly named.
yeah, and Lashley's gonna be the big brute for Hurt Business going forward. So,
Yep. Yepper. Uh
but after the match, we had Riddle calling out MVP and just basically saying he can't, or Riddle would just be able to dominate MVP. And I mean, it would be an interesting match for sure. I wouldn't say dominate,
yeah.
but yeah. Anyway, MVP just gets pissed off, takes off his shirt and tie and whatever, and comes down. And yeah, Lashley, just after the match continues on, Lashley just comes in and spears Riddle after I think Riddle kicks Bobby at some point. And
Yeah, he hops out and does like the apron to the ground like football kick basically.
yeah, exactly.
Um
And yeah, and then comes in, spears Riddle, and so Riddle does beat MVP, but I don't think he feels like a winner.
so after that we have the backstage segment where,
Oh,
Drew
this makes
Gulak
me.
wants to declare himself into the Rumble.
But he's the only person who's not allowed to do that.
Adam Pearce tells him he can't, even though we've had people declare themselves. And I'll state it now because it's not long after. Adam Pearce goes, you can't just declare, and then a few segments later we have Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke declare themselves for the Rumble.
It's literally the segment after this match.
Yeah, but anyways, Pearce tells Gulak you can't face AJ if you win. Um,
Yeah,
you're in.
which I don't. Initially when I watched this, I thought it was whoever wins goes into the Rumble. I think it's actually just if Gulak
It was
he
because
go in.
because Styles had already declared and Pierce was like, yeah, you're a former champ, you're fine. Like,
Right, like.
and to give some praise actually to Gulak here, really, really quick, because he deserves it.
Yes.
Prior to Raw airing, at least up here, in Ontario, and that, because I view on Sportsnet 360, they air main event beforehand. Now I don't know if it was like the week prior or like if it was supposed to be this week's. But Gulak and Ricochet had a match.
Okay.
I turned it on early to make sure my stream would stay. And those guys had on main event I think one of the best matches of the week
Oh
in
wow.
pro wrestling, not just WWE. Their match, I sat and I never watch main event, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching these two, and I'm like, why is this on main event? Like these,
Well, hearing Ricochet's name being said for that match surprises me because
like
I would love to see that match just any day of the week. I
Well,
mean, Gulak was one of the reasons 205 Live is still a thing.
well, I recommend if you have the time, watch it from main event last week.
Okay.
It was such a fire match. And then like that's why when they did the bit with Styles here and going into the match, I was like, "Oh, we're going to have Gulak get a really good showing." And like it's not that AJ destroyed him, but
It was just kind of a nothing match. It just Styles just kind of gets the better of Gulak.
it did
And
nothing for Gulak.
I mean, granted, wrestling Styles is a pretty good rub. It's similar to wrestling like Cena and Orton and
It's
stuff like that.
decent, but when
But you lose in such nothing fashion.
like
You're
if I didn't have my document up in front of me, that's one match that I probably would have missed
yeah,
going through the show. Like
exactly. Yeah.
that's where that match was, which is really disappointing because I mean, not only do you have somebody who's as good as Gulak, but you have AJ frickin' Styles.
Yeah, and that's just it. Like Styles is without question one of the best wrestlers in the world.
Yep,
Like, and WWE
100%.
is very lucky to keep him on their books.
There, it's because of the zeros at the end of the check, which we know from recent stuff the past few months, we know very much so is the only reason he is
Mhm.
still there. Which I mean, I can't blame him. Guy's got a family,
Not at
got
all.
to put food on the table, and if they're gonna offer you that many zeros, you don't say no.
No, exactly. And to be fair, it is kind of uncertain to jump ship to say AEW, where it could go under in a year. We don't
It,
know. It
oh, especially after the year we just had, and I mentioned to you prior to the podcast watching the AEW Unrestricted. Tony Khan has been very blunt about it on the restricteds, which I didn't know, or the unrestricteds, of him basically 100% being like starting up AEW cost tens of millions of dollars. We
yeah,
lost our biggest gates that we were ever going to get in Rochester and the 2 or 3 weeks following. He announced they were going to California in the coming months after that. Fighter Fest last year was supposed to be in the UK, which I can only imagine was going to be at the soccer stadium, which
yeah,
they would have sold out 70,000 seats, no issue in the UK. They
yeah,
lost what would have been one of the most profitable years for them, probably
yeah.
for their first 10 years. They
And I
lost out
have
on it.
no doubt Tony's got ideas to make that money
Oh,
back. I
you want to
have a
know the
feeling.
only idea he needs? As soon as we're good to pack a stadium, they've kind of got TIAA Bank Stadium Field behind them. And I'm telling you right now, the second it's safe to shove 80,000 people in one place, run a show there.
Yeah. Oh, and he
People
will.
are starved for entertainment. That's why I'm like, WWE doing Mania the 2 nights at Raymond James this year is smart, and then next year doing AT&T again in Arlington because they're going to sell 102,000 tickets without a doubt.
Oh, exactly.
It
And
will
they could
be
do a
a
Stadium
sellout.
Stampede match. They could do another Stadium Stampede match easily.
Like
Uh with fans, which would be amazing.
like
Like,
you want to see a similar like it's not going to be exactly the same, but similar to first Double or Nothing sellout in
mhm,
seconds, that I guarantee you the second Mania next year tickets go on
mhm.
sale for Texas. I guarantee you it will be the first Mania sellout in many, many years.
Oh, for
And I
sure.
guarantee you it'll be a sellout in under 2 months.
Yeah,
I
but I
guarantee
feel
you.
like the first big show for AEW will sell out in a week. Their
Oh, yeah.
first big show back will sell out in a week. And I don't try to dock WWE with that. It's just AEW consistently will book for fans rather than what they think will sell.
The thing is I said it yesterday to a friend, and I very much believe it. The second we know we're in the clear, whenever that may be, um, it's a time for companies, especially entertainment companies, to
Mhm.
Yes, it's high risk. I understand it's not just as easy as being like fuck it, because some of these guys have families. Like I point once again, we've mentioned them a few times. Smash Wrestling, local
Yeah.
promotion. They run places like the London Music Hall or the Rec Room, few hundred people
Wherever
maybe.
they can get,
The
like,
thing is the second it's safe to pack a bunch of people somewhere, high risk, high reward, I bet you they could book a bigger place
oh, for sure.
and they could easily sell out, because I just said it a minute ago. We're so starved for entertainment that the second it's safe and everybody's confident in doing so, y-
Even if we still
you've
have to wear masks.
if you've ever had a hard time getting a ticket to something, just wait, because
Oh, yeah.
it's going to be impossible for quite a while, and it's not going to be like a one-off. It'll
No.
be the first time these shows are in a place for the first time.
Mhm.
That's the thing. Like the
The first
first
time they come
time,
to Canada is gonna sell out in
like it was
seconds.
already going to sell out in
Yeah,
seconds,
it was.
but now even worse. But like you think of running the states for somebody like AEW or even WWE, you know, we're going to run New York area. We're going to run Michigan area. We're going to run California area. Those shows, because those areas, uh, having the base they already do and being starved for what's going to end up being a year and a half, maybe even 2 years, because who knows, right?
Yeah.
Um, they're going to be sellouts. They're going to make so much money out of this, and it sucks that it took this. I'm not saying like this is a benefit of the last year we've had, but if they keep themselves running up to that point, all these promotions, like even the Ring of Honors, man,
Yeah.
like it's going to be a boom in the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
Concerts are going to see all-time highs. Wrestling events are going to
Even
see all-time
theater
highs.
movies, like,
Theater
just
movies,
like,
dude, Broadway,
yeah, no, plays even, for sure.
like it's going to see an absolute boom, and like that's a really exciting thing for pro wrestling,
Well, even
because
hockey's attempting to get fans back already, and I don't
football's
agree
had
with that,
people in
but
stadiums
yeah,
watching the I believe it was the Packers last night. They had
yeah,
quite a bit in the stadium, which sure, I see people in those situations, and even with AEW, even in the safest circumstances like that, cuz I mean, like even like the Green Bay game, like they didn't just like, yeah, come on in. There was procedure in that. But being in the situation, like we're still here, right? It's you see people in these places, and I'm sitting here like, uh,
well, for instance, Tampa Bay, they won the Stanley Cup, in September, and they went and celebrated at Buck Stadium where, WrestleMania was supposed to be hosted,
oh, okay.
and they had fans in the stands, like, all over the place. Like, they weren't packed, but there was socially distanced groups of a bunch of people, and then the Lightning themselves were just partying. There was videos of them showing people, like, letting fans drink out of the cup and whatever. Like, they were getting hell for stuff that they were doing with the cup. Like, but sometimes they don't care, and it's just not a good way to work.
That's just it. In the circumstances, it just is what it is. I mean,
Yeah,
we've lived in these circumstances for almost a year now. Um, you know, it's just once we're not in this state,
yeah.
which, as like I said, talking to that friend yesterday, I made the comment, we will one day be out of it. We will.
Oh, for sure.
It's just, will it be tomorrow? Will it be later this year? Will it be next year? We don't know. We don't know, and let's hope that, we never live through this again. I never thought I'd live through a pandemic in my life like this. And we have.
Yeah,
Let's
that's
hope
for
we never
sure.
do again. But it's going to be a boom, and I'm excited for the wrestling industry, which is the point why we were talking about it here.
Yeah.
At the end of talking about Styles and Gulak on Raw. It's going to be a very exciting time for the wrestling industry. But it's also going to be
Yeah.
very disappointing because you're never going to get a ticket for like a
Speaking of
year.
disappointing,
Hey,
we had Mandy and Dana declaring themselves for the Rumble, like we said, which this is so annoying. We've had multiple superstars declare themselves who aren't on the same level as Styles, and they just
oh
they're
come
allowed to.
on, Mandy
They're
Rose
allowed
and
to,
Dana
but
Brooke aren't on the same level as multi-time world champion AJ Styles. Come on.
is there a championship between those two? A single championship?
I don't think Fire and Desire ever won the tag titles, did they?
I don't think so either. I'm
Hey,
sure they've won
moving
indie titles,
on.
but
Well, I don't
what'd you
think
say,
Mandy
sorry?
has because Mandy was tough enough, and that's how she got in. Dana
Right.
maybe, but I think she started at the Performance Center too.
Dana was a
Body
professional a bodybuilder.
bodybuilder, yep.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, that was just weird. And then you would think this tag team match is probably to like confirm them being in the Royal Rumble, right?
Hold
No.
on, before we get to the tag team match, let's not skip over the Goldberg highlight reel that they put together.
I didn't even put that in my notes because I didn't want to talk
I
about it.
had to because it shows that they have to be like it's Goldberg, here's him from the 90s who is not who he is now, but this is the shit
No.
he did in the 90s and it's Goldberg.
Well, his beard, for instance, is white now, and it used to be brown, maybe black.
The fact that they had to put a highlight reel together for him, I was like,
We know who Goldberg is.
does this not show why he should not be,
Like,
necessarily?
if they thought the issue was we didn't know who Goldberg
Oh,
was,
we're all freaking well aware of who
we
Goldberg is.
know full well.
But
But
yeah, the
then
tag team match. Oh,
this match again, it was a quick match, and then I think yeah, there's nothing really spot wise that really took my attention.
no,
I think
we're talking Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler versus Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke.
there's one name in there that's really interesting. One of these things doesn't belong here, is what I'm trying to say by that.
I I don't think that any of them belong being placed in a tag team division,
For sure, but
but
Baszler specifically, if she's going to be in the tag division, should just be the tag champion by herself, because she could just beat most of the tag teams made by WWE week to week for the women's division.
or bring up um why am I having a hard time remembering their names?
Catanzaro
No, no,
and
no, 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 no.
no,
For Baszler,
oh,
um, uh,
the four horsewomen of UFC,
of MMA, yeah, yeah.
yeah, or yeah, MMA. Sorry,
Uh,
I can't remember their
Marina
names either.
Schaefer because she is married to Roderick Strong and Jessamine Duke, if I'm not
All right,
mistaken.
good. I was gonna look it up, but we're good. I know the
Hell,
names.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan.
No,
But I'll put it out there. I'll put it out there. You really want Baszler to be in the tag division? Bring Rousey back.
I think the issue with they would definitely have Rousey, but I think Rousey's really interested in starting her family, and
Exactly, but
I'm all for her doing that.
oh, exactly. And I mean, I know that that could probably pull a lot of controversy saying that because I mean, Rousey's run was very mixed in my opinion. But if you want to
I
really put
hated it at the
Baszler,
start, but I loved it at the finish. That's all I'll say.
so I was the opposite.
Okay.
I enjoyed the start of it, and I felt the longer it went, the more stale it got, and the more like every time she came out, I rolled my eyes near the end. And so when
See,
she
to
lost
me,
at Mania and then was like gone, I was like, okay, some time off TV, come back. It's gonna be good for your spot.
for sure. I think every time, like, because when she came in, I was really annoyed because I didn't like the fact that WWE feels they need to do this, just bring an MMA star in to make wrestling feel real. And and then she actually impressed me. Like, she started to have good matches, and so that's why I say that. Like, she really did impress me towards the end with some of her matches. Even that triple threat match at the end was a pretty good
It
match.
was decent for sure.
Like,
Um,
but yeah, this match, Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax, they defeat Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. But
mhm.
the best outcome of this is Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose are in the Royal Rumble. Moving on.
Main event. So we hop into now what, because of the way the main event took place and one circumstance that happened leading
Well,
into the
that was the main event.
pre-record
We just watched the main event.
the main event segment.
Yeah,
Sorry. We lead into this very interesting series of events. So we get Orton and Hunter in a fight. Actually very very decent. I mean, you're talking two great competitors. Two guys that have known each other for a long time, have worked with each
I
other
think
many
there's some
times.
group that is kind of legendary. They've done some
Yeah,
stuff
some random, just a throwaway name group that doesn't really matter to the history of pro wrestling at all.
ever, and yeah, no.
But they did a pretty decent job in the short period of time they had. And then
Yeah, it kind of felt like some of their old brawls back in the day.
one of the most interesting bits is Orton getting Irish whipped into the steps, and then audibly hearing on TV him go, "Oh fuck," and you going, and then he turns around with blood on his cheek. And to me, at first, I'm like, "Oh shit, we're getting some color from this segment," and then all of a sudden, I notice him wiping it, and I'm going, "Oh, we're going to end with some kind of bit with the Fiend being pre-recorded," because that's what we've gotten a lot is
Yep.
pre-recorded stuff
Well,
with the
that's the
Fiend.
the dream of this COVID era is the Fiend is able to be the character he's able to be.
Exactly. So like I knew we were going into a pre-recorded bit, which doesn't upset me. Like the thing
No, not at all.
is we're gonna start coming out of this COVID era of WWE wrestling where they're gonna have to start figuring out how to present the Fiend character with a live audience again without
Yeah,
pre-recorded stuff. So
yeah,
I have no problem with them doing this stuff on the tail end of it here like they've been doing, but watching him wipe away the blood, I was like, we're going into something to do with the Fiend.
exactly.
And then
And then inevitably
Hunter
we
getting
got
the sledgehammer out. And it's funny because there's a moment there between the two of them where you're seeing Orton look down as Hunter gets in the ring with the sledgehammer, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. And then you can almost see Hunter being cued to pull the sledgehammer on fire up. And I was like, "Oh, you
yeah,
guys, come on." Um,
yeah. But
but
I mean, it was a pretty cool moment. I didn't see it coming at all.
yeah.
The all of a sudden the sledgehammer's on fire. I mean, I think just before that the lights kind of flickered and whatever,
Yeah, yeah,
and then it
they had the Fiend bit where the lights come down and that
and they killed the
the
Thunderdome
Thunderdome
screens.
boards, yep.
Yeah,
So yeah, and then suddenly Hunter's gone and
I think Alexa
Bliss,
appears behind him,
yeah,
like
cuz
not where Hunter was, but
Orton's staring where Hunter was and Bliss is behind him cuz Orton's kind of moved to the center of the ring. And then we
yeah,
get the fireball spot.
which work would look beautiful.
Oh, it looked really good. I laugh that uh every time they bring back the fireball spot, because I mean it happened in the 90s, it happened
Yeah.
in Impact with James Storm and Jeff Hardy,
Yep.
which I still get a kick out of, because if you watched the live broadcast, it happens, they go to commercial and they come back and they go, so apparently the network didn't want us to show that, so you never saw it. And I can remember, if you've never heard that, search it
No,
up
I didn't.
because it's hilarious, because I believe it's Don West and Mike Tenay, and they're like, what happened before a commercial break you did not see, you did not see that, um and they moved on, which I laugh at.
Nice.
And then we had it happen only a few months ago in NXT with Keith Lee. He
Yeah.
opened up like a contract or something, and it blinded him.
Yep. And
But
I think it's because they're able to play around with pyro a little more with
yeah,
the way the audience is,
like
which
I'm
is
not
nice. I
saying I
enjoy it.
dislike it. It was a fine spot. It's just every time the fireball gimmick happens, I get a kick out of it.
Well, I always think back to Hogan's mess up one where he just it didn't fireball at all. Like,
Hogan messed up? What?
you mean the fireball that went off in his hand and then he just goes like,
Oh, come on. Come on.
but yeah, and
Hogan, no.
so Orton or Raw goes off the air with Orton basically dying.
Yeah,
Fine.
very very interesting cut to the show.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it was a good show as far as the week goes.
Yeah, and we will be doing a rating out of 5 for all these shows. We're going to run the results first and then run through our ratings after the fact. So we will be coming back to Raw to kind of give an overall
Yep.
like hey. So that was Raw, and then we move on to Tuesday's Impact, which my first comment in brackets here, which is very I'm very harsh about it, which it was a lot better at Hard to Kill.
I think
But
I know the
the
answer.
show comes on the air, and I already can't stand the commentary.
Yeah.
And
Madison Rain does a good job.
she does a decent job. She just it's
Just so they know who
obviously
we're talking about.
it's obviously not her end.
No.
And the other odd part about it, at least through their Twitch stream, their commentary was ahead of the moves.
On occasion, yeah, there was a couple times where it was ahead.
So
Sometimes it was synced, but yeah, it popped ahead a couple.
yeah, Josh Matthews would call a kick out before the kick out, or it was very
Mhm.
awkward. But anyways, into the show. It opens up, and it was Kimberly versus Taya Valkyrie.
Yep, with
Um,
Rosemary and Deonna Purrazzo in their
yeah,
respective corners.
yeah. Match is going pretty decent. We have Susan,
Yeah,
come out.
I haven't seen the stuff before this, so I have no idea what the story behind this is.
So basically, what I know from it, from the bit that I saw prior, I would assume you saw the Susie stuff.
I think so.
Yeah, so Sue Young, for some reason, I don't know why. I think it has to do with something with James Mitchell, who you should remember from Abyss's storylines back in the day.
Yeah.
Um, but anyways, she became Susie, which was like a polar opposite of Sue Young. She was just, little, cute, squishy, like,
Okay.
that shit. And everybody was trying to get her to turn back into Sue Young. And then she did, and then I don't know why, but James Mitchell showed up again. And he's like, I did my best, and then out comes Susan. And so I don't know. I don't know. In the coming weeks, hopefully it gets cleared up. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
Susan
that's
comes
really
out.
interesting.
Susan comes out, and they end up
Beating on
basically
Rosemary.
distracting Taya by beating on Rosemary. Yeah.
Yeah, up on the
And
ramp there.
Kimberly picks up the victory. Um,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and that kind of, I mean, I don't know if it's supposed to be a telltale sign for what might happen at the pay-per-view or whatever, or if it's trying to tell us what might not happen at the pay-per-view. Like, because Ty is a really good competitor. Having her lose in that fashion, it makes you think, oh, well, maybe she's going to get her win back and get the title at the pay-per-view, or who knows, right?
yeah,
Like,
it's set up for a we can go either way come the pay-per-view type scenario,
mhm,
which was really nice.
exactly.
We got the AEW paid advertisement, which, good as always. The only thing I noticed, which I brought it up to you earlier this week, it seemed like the ad was technically a It seemed like it. I'm not sure. It seemed like it was potentially a week behind, which if it was because of the Brody Lee tribute, which it's no big deal. It's just the
No,
way some of the comments that were made between the Tonys, it seemed like it was supposed to be aired on the first Impact of the year.
probably, yeah.
But it didn't take away from it at all.
No,
It
it was a good segment as always.
Yeah. Now I don't know if you put in your notes because we're running off of different notes here. A lot of the backstage stuff I didn't put down from Impact. Um, any of like the
Uh,
quick just
I didn't really do any of the quick little segments and stuff like
okay.
that. I mentioned like Sammy's talking about his barbed wire match with Eddie, and
Yep.
that's about it. That
Okay.
just because that was really the more important thing to happen there. The other stuff when they were talking like through the card and whatever, I didn't see a point in doing that.
Yeah. Well, if one of us happens to be running through the card and one of us has a note or something that gets skipped over, like with like the Goldberg bit from Raw, obviously just interject because I know we're
Yeah,
running off of different
exactly.
notes. But next up we have an X Division tag team match. Chris Bay and Rohit Raju versus Manic and Suicide.
So the only confirmation we can get from this is it's not TJP under Suicide's mask.
Pretty well. I'm not actually because if you look up the on the Wikipedia, the most useful site for that.
Yeah.
They have a few different people listed as recently portraying the Suicide character.
So is it
So
maybe it's a different person then every time?
yeah, because I think they've got two that say currently are the present portrayal. So it's
Okay.
hard to say who exactly, depending on the night, is under the mask. Um,
TJP is still the best one in my opinion.
he was really good. Obviously, early Suicide was very good with Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian playing Under the Mask both. Which
Yeah.
I still want to know who was Under the Mask when I met him.
They
So
didn't talk, eh?
no, they went
No.
around at the Impact House show in 2009. They just went around. If you had something that you wanted signed, they signed it. Did the little pose, and that was it. So I don't even know, because at that time, it for television, it was bouncing between Daniels and Kazarian, and
So that way
neither
people
one of
couldn't
them
tell.
were on the card that I was
Right.
at. So I don't know for the house shows if it was still one of them portraying it. Because the thing is, thinking back to it, it was exactly the same moveset as on TV, which I mean, a wrestler has a moveset perfected. So it's
Yeah.
hard to say. It was more than likely one of them, but
Oh, it has to be. And that's just why Daniels and Kazarian make such a good tag team is because
their movesets are
their styles are so
so
similar.
so close. But good
But this was a
match.
really good match. Yeah.
Minus my one nitpick, which we talked about earlier in the week, which was when they went under the ring and then came out. You're in an empty studio. It's a ring made up of metal and wood.
Yeah.
You can't have them take 4 or 5 steps in the ring and act like you didn't hear them. But just a nitpick on my part. I understand the point of what they were going for. It's just one of those things where it was like, come on, if
Yeah.
I could hear the ring, you guys in the ring could hear the ring move, and you
Yeah.
guys
We're
weren't
sitting at the
moving.
hard cam. Yeah.
Like
Like,
nobody was moving in the ring. Think about it. But
exactly.
I mean, you're
But
talking a
yeah.
10-second spot, but it was just
Yeah. And it didn't really change the effect of the match
it
either.
was just something that I caught and I was like, ugh.
Yeah. Exactly.
But anyways, yeah, Chris Bay and Rohit Raju won.
Yep.
Um which
Yeah.
I mean the
It
X
was.
division always I even going back 10 years ago or more, they always have decent stuff, those guys.
Oh yeah. I can't recall really having consistent bad X Division matches.
No, because the division has always been relatively solid through the years.
A lot of times it's the little guys that WWE would refuse to sign, and that's just it. Like,
Pretty well.
But yeah, we had a little bit of a conversation with Taya and Rosemary backstage. Just basically Taya saying she's fine for the match,
Yeah. Yep.
which isn't surprising. Taya wanting to be by herself and doing something like that doesn't really surprise me. She's a bit strong headed, and yeah,
Exactly.
it,
And
it works
then
for her character, you
oh,
know.
it does. It very much so does. So it all made sense. And then come the pay-per-view, which we'll discuss, they backpedaled a bit, and
A little
I
bit,
don't
yeah,
know, it just, but
yeah,
anyways, I believe next up was Diener and Tommy Dreamer.
yeah. Again, this was it was an interesting one.
It was interesting. As I informed you, I looked away at the end for a minute. I wasn't paying attention, and when I started paying attention again, everybody was in the ring and shit was happening, and I was so confused, and it yeah.
Yeah. So basically, like, Jake hits Diener and Dreamer at one point or something, and somebody takes offense to it or whatever happens. I can't exactly remember how somebody takes offense to something happening, and then they just come in the ring. Basically similar to what happened with Bobby Lashley
Yeah.
in the MVP
And I
segment.
want to talk more about some of these guys, but I'm going to save it for the Hard to Kill recap later on
Yep.
because I have a lot of praise for a lot of these guys.
Yes.
Not from this segment, though. Like, I mean, it was a good
No.
segment, not to take away, but from Hard to Kill last night, I've got some major praise to give to them once we get to that. But,
Yeah, and I mean, this has been consistently one of my favorite segments on Impact the last couple weeks.
yeah. So
Um,
we go from that. I have here. They did like the contract thing for the women's or knockouts, I guess. Tag titles
yeah,
backstage, which, I felt was really just awkward, and then to immediately transition to Brian Myers and Josh Alexander all in the same segment was just
it was
really
literally in the same
awkward.
room.
Yeah, like they came in to Scott D'Amore and that. I don't know, it felt kind of weird, but
Yeah, but we
that's
get
just
the
me.
no DQ match made between Brian Myers and Josh Alexander after that, which was, I mean, I think that's going to be a pretty good match. I don't remember if that hasn't happened yet, has it?
They had the match on the pre-show.
Oh, so I that's why I didn't see it. That's why I
Yeah.
didn't see it.
And then we have Tennille Dashwood and Rosemary, which
I
if
mean, this
I'm
is basically just a singles match of what's going to happen at the pay-per-view.
yep, pretty well. But we
Caleb
did
with a
get a
K.
which the funny part of it is Caleb Connolly, his name is actually spelled with a C though.
Yeah.
Like I get a chuckle at that. Which fun fact, he portrayed suicide at one point.
Did he?
Yes, I found that out by looking at
Okay.
the Wikipedia. So, because I
Well,
saw
that's
the
pretty
name and
cool.
I'm like, who is this? And then I clicked on it and it was like, he's currently Caleb with a K in Impact. And I was like, oh, okay. Um,
All right.
but we had a nice little bit from that match. Crazy Steve coming out and assisting.
Yeah,
And
reforming Decay, which
yeah,
is really cool.
yeah. So that was actually
Obviously, we won't get Joseph Park because he's over for behind WWE's curtains, which good on him though.
hey
He's
man.
finally there.
Yeah, I wish we could get Abyss on screen in WWE, but you know it.
Well, they'll call him like Black Hole or something, and he'll come out. You know he. This Rumble is the perfect time for a bit. We're gonna talk about that later.
This Rumble, no, a few Rumbles ago when he first signed was the perfect time. Now would be
But this,
nice, but it's not.
this one's a cinematic, right? So they could have him come out, do some cinematic shit as Abyss, and then just get
I
thrown out.
never even thought about that. I'm actually very intrigued. But that's for even like the show before the Rumble to
Yeah,
talk
like
about.
that's we're really talking ahead of it there.
But Rosemary comes out on top of that match.
Yeah,
We get I have next is the Moose match.
Yeah, there was just some stuff about Swan talking about his match and then
Yeah.
recapping the Ethan Page stuff.
Yeah. So we have Moose and Matthew Palmer. Similar to last week, which was the 3-minute challenge. This was an
Yeah,
actual match now.
this one doesn't go 3 minutes though.
But it was a decent showing. Obviously Moose coming out on top as an absolute beast.
Uh, and it's not by a pin, it is by a knockout.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
like he elbows Palmer's head until he is unconscious.
Which ended up,
Similar, yeah.
it ended up playing out good for Impact's favor considering what happened regarding the main event of the pay-per-view. But yeah.
Yes, I mean, yeah.
But
and and then we got the recap of Don Callis and Kenny Omega's whole storyline,
which we've seen about a million times now. But yes,
yeah,
um
we get that pretty much every Impact.
and then I have down next Carl Anderson and Rich Swann.
And this was just a barn burner of a match. They just let them go.
Very much, yeah.
Like,
Quite decent. And then yeah, we
yeah,
have
it was at the end. Carl hits goes for a cutter, and then Swan rolls him up and pins him. So
yep.
that's what it was like. It looked like Carl was going to hit a cutter, but Swan was one step ahead, and it was great because the entire time we were like, "Oh, this is the machine gun from New Japan and all that." And
2012 G1 finalist. Or
yeah,
wait,
like
he won the 2012 G1.
no, I think they keep calling him the finalist. I don't think they've said the champion. But yeah, like this, and it's very much that Carl Anderson. It's not like he's the one that he was in WWE, where he's got the good matches, but he's not really that good anymore. But yeah, are you able to find it?
I'm trying.
Yeah. I mean, so
Okay, I
until
believe Okada won from the looks
okay,
of it. So the G1 finalist, you are correct.
I'm pretty sure that's what Kenny always the G1 finalist, like
See,
the machine gun.
I couldn't remember if it was finalist or winner because I'm like, for some reason I feel like Carl won the G1, but apparently not.
Yeah, no.
But we go from that to backstage.
Well, not even backstage. It cuts to Kenny's bus, and it's completely empty.
That yes, that is right. But Gallows and Omega start attacking Motor City Machine Guns. Swan comes in, Anderson comes in, and at least for me through the Twitch stream, there was about a 30 seconds after Anderson came in because he was the last one to enter the room. There was about 30 seconds, and then it was like a straight up hard cut to them promoting Hard to Kill, which felt really awkward.
Yeah,
But
well, for me, I kind of remember Josh kind of saying, "Oh, well, what's going on here? Now we gotta go to review Hard to Kill." So I got about a minute maybe of that brawl. Whereas it doesn't seem like you got that same amount.
yeah,
So I don't know what stream I got. Maybe Access gets a bit longer.
see,
But
I don't know because I would find it weird that would be two different streams, but who really knows at the end of the
yeah,
day.
I mean, I also could just be confusing it with the very ending when they signed off from
There
letting the card down.
there is a hell of a lot of wrestling in a week.
Right?
So to remember all of it, it's yeah. But
Yeah, exactly.
decent Impact. Moving on to Wednesday night. Would you prefer to cover Dynamite or NXT first? Since we, Wednesday
Well,
Night Wars.
we'll do Dynamite first, considering it kind of has links to Impact.
Sure thing. So we open the show with like this is why Dynamite is consistently good. We open with a match that could have been the main event.
Oh
We
yeah,
get
and could have been a main event of a pay-per-view.
oh,
Like,
exactly. Pac and Eddie Kingston like just going at it.
yeah,
The match you're talking two absolutely brilliant minds in pro wrestling. Um
and they told a story through the whole
through the
thing.
whole
Like
thing.
it was
Um,
just such a good match the whole way through.
so we have Pac defeating Eddie Kingston though. In
After he hits the Black Arrow.
absolute classic, absolute
Yeah,
classic.
and I mean, you couldn't talk about more two different styles of wrestling competing.
Exactly.
Like
Um, and Lance Archer comes out there, which I was
because
expecting a big appearance change, but it was just a trimming of
yeah, you
the
showed
hair.
me that picture of him with all the hair trimmings, and he came out and he still had pretty much all of it.
It was thinned out. It was very much thinned
Yeah,
out. I mean, you look at the braid prior to, and the braid was like yay, and then this week it was just a
exactly.
small. But he came out, and I loved it because we were talking during the show, and the music hit, and we both go, who? And then
Yeah,
it kicks into the actual like music bit of it, and I'm like, oh, it's Archer. But it was
yeah.
such a like a
There's
who?
some preludes to entrance music that I just don't recognize at
Yeah,
all.
they catch me off guard. But
And
he
then we
came
move in.
out.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no no
Yeah,
no! I
he
was just
came
saying
out,
he
makes the
came out
save.
and just kind of, uh, I believe him and Pac had just the face to face really quick.
And he said to Pac that they need to get on the same
Yeah,
page.
yeah.
So, which
And
is interesting considering I haven't really seen Archer as a part of that team, but he's helped them in times, but he's not
he's
really a
come
part of
out
that
because
team.
him and Kingston
Yeah,
have a bit going too, which I feel it's a bit due to just the I mean, Pack traveling back and forth and having to isolate here and there, and then the Archer bit from the Battle Royal, and it's just all kind of overlapping because of, and it's not. I'm not saying it's AEW's mess. It's the world's mess of what we're going through. It's all
yes,
overlapping because of how everything's worked out. I mean, Archer had that contact with a positive COVID case at one point, and
yeah,
it's all overlapping. Which the thing is, it's gonna make out for very good storytelling. But
for
it's
sure.
just if you're just tuning into it now, if you're just for some reason coming back, you're gonna be very much so like, why does
Yeah,
everybody hate this guy? Which I mean, I'm an absolute fan of Eddie Kingston. I'd heard the name, but I don't think I'd ever seen anything prior to his debut. Um,
yeah.
but he has got a fan out of me. But he makes it so easy to hate him, which is
Well,
why I think
yeah,
I
and I
love him
mean,
so much.
on BTE, they have him cut promos on just like Sour Patch Kids and stuff like that. It's just hilarious.
Let me say this now, and it's with all due respect. From a few weeks ago. Eddie, fuck you, man. I somehow there's that time to time where pro wrestling really hits and with Brody Lee passing and that, I thought I was done crying for the week. I will
Hmm.
openly admit it. There was a lot of tears shed the week Brody Lee passed away.
Yeah.
As a big fan of Mr. Brody Lee, and
Well,
seeing
even just as Luke Harper.
exactly big rig, you know.
Hmm.
But seeing Eddie talk about the show on BTE afterwards really shows, as much as in front of the camera he can make you hate him in a matter of seconds.
Hmm.
Um it not only shows the brotherhood behind the scenes, but it shows how much he cares about not only the business but the people in it. Um
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
really nice that I'm happy he got the shot, and he's absolutely making the most from it now.
Oh yeah, and he's knocking it out of the park. Like
Oh,
I
100%.
saw,
He will
I
be
I
world champ at some point.
I read an interview with him talking about he had a tryout for WWE, and it was during the Mae Young Classic, so he didn't really take it seriously because it was basically a class full of all girls, and so he basically just didn't really take it seriously, and that's unfortunate because I think he could have done some good stuff in WWE.
And one thing that I really like about Eddie and listening to his interviews is talking about how much, like, when him and Mox were going at it, and Mox brought up Kingston's mom. Um knowing that that wasn't just a throw in line or something like that, that Eddie's mom is really all that to him, is
Hmm.
really awesome. And I mean, I hit him mentioning like the reason I went with AEW was my mom was like, that's where you belong.
Hmm.
um it makes me more and more of a fan of him on a personal level, let alone the character level.
Oh yeah,
um
he's gonna do some great things in the future.
yes, he will. But moving on with Dynamite.
Yeah,
um
we had this really interesting match with Chuck Taylor facing Miro. The initial point was his young boy, but AEW since changed it to be a butler.
yes.
What do you know what a young boy is?
So essentially, from my basic understanding, because I had heard the term for a lot of years now, getting into wrestling and listening to a lot of guys who did a lot of stuff in Japan. But just recently with them discussing stuff like this and with the whole Trent bit in that, I actually looked into it. It's basically the easiest way I can explain it without making it sound absolutely horrendous. It's basically a way of passage in Japanese pro wrestling. Um, basically, when you're coming into the business, um, there's a lot of the time you can become one of the veterans, young boys. It's basically a way of, you carry the bags, you rent the hotels, you rent the cars, you make sure we're there on time. You're basically their lackey, but
Kind of like an apprentice almost.
in exchange for doing all that shit, right? The stuff that like you probably wouldn't want to do. In exchange for it though, with the loyalty of it, you basically get mentored to an
Yeah,
extent.
you get to
So
pick the brain of a legend then,
so
basically.
a Jericho going over would more than likely he would acquire a young boy if he were to go for a tour of Japan.
Okay.
And he'd
So
basically,
Bucks could have young boyed for
the
somebody
Bucks
like
more than likely did young boy for some of the guys to an extent, because like sometimes it's like from this town to this town and that's it. Sometimes it's okay, we got a 2 week long tour of Japan,
mhm,
and I'm your young boy for the 2 weeks. And a lot of the time, like it really, it's just a mentorship thing.
right. It's
There
not
are
supposed to be a disrespectful thing.
there are stories of some of the vets being dicks about it, which I mean, it happens. But a lot of the time, it's just, I've paid my dues in the business. You're looking to break in, okay?
Mhm.
Here's a way of starting to pay some dues to a veteran who is going to, like I said, somebody like a Jericho. He's got how many years of knowledge? I mean, they just celebrated what, 35 years of Jericho? 30 years?
Something like that.
30
30 years of Jericho, I
30
think.
years of Jericho. He's got 30 years of knowledge. That
Mhm.
you should never expect somebody to bestow 30 years of knowledge onto you for nothing. And that's basically
Exactly.
the way that culture does it.
Yeah, and that's just it. Like, I didn't realize that that's what a young boy was, but it seems like AEW shifted it to be a butler now, and it seems
Because
like
of
Mike.
them going in kind of a disrespectful way of the way they're
Yeah,
doing it. It was probably just to not like piss off the Japanese culture, because I mean they're going to have a very strong connection coming out of COVID with New Japan and that.
hopefully, yeah, hopefully we'll see
Well,
some maybe some
there
Ibushi versus
there was a change in
Omega.
ownership, and Tony Khan has said in
Yes,
interviews that he believes that the working relationship coming out of COVID will be there now, and not
that's
just
good.
Khan sending people to Japan and us not seeing anybody on U.S. soil.
Well, I would love to see Ibushi and Kenny have a match
Yes,
to
please.
add to Kenny's collection.
Yes, please.
Fine, I'll do it myself.
But yeah, Chuck and Miro. And yeah,
This was a good
basically,
match again. Like,
if Chuck loses, becomes the butler, which is what we've shifted to. And yeah, I mean, once again, two talented guys. Um,
and they did exactly what it was supposed to be. Like Chuck put up a bit of a offense, but never really got anything going.
and then
And it
Miro was the big guy who just kind of destroyed at the end.
exactly like it was exactly what it needed to be. Orange got involved to try to help out, but it it didn't work because Miro is Miro. He's big.
Yep, and Miro came out on top there, and I like the way they ended it with Miro pulling Chuck to the stage and Orange just kind of standing in the ring being like, well, shit.
Yeah, like, and I hope that this will send a singles push more so for Orange now that he's not tied in with Best Friends for the next at least couple months.
Yeah, because
Um,
Trent is out for,
or something for 6 to 8 weeks or something like that.
yeah, almost 4 months, I think I read. I mean,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, but it's unfortunate, and I hope he has a great recovery and comes back stronger than ever.
oh yeah, I mean Trent, just like Chuck, absolute brilliant performers. I mean, you want to know what I'm talking about? Go and watch the street fight with Santana and Ortiz. I mean,
Yeah,
you're talking. Um, I've watched that match back a handful of times because it is just it. You mentioned the term earlier, a barn burner.
yeah.
Like it just it
Well,
showed
it's
what they
one of
could
those
do.
matches.
It showed like
Yeah,
the best friends aren't a comedy gimmick team. Like we can be taken seriously. So, but yeah,
the Best
hopefully
Friends,
Trent comes
yeah.
back.
And I hope that the Best Friends get a tag title,
Oh,
or
guaranteed.
if AEW decides to do it, the trios, if they decide to do that,
If they decide. But
which they have no reason to if they don't want to.
pretty well. Inner Circle's New Year's resolutions.
Championships, yeah.
So out of this, we got Hager being a mindless idiot.
Yeah,
We got tag team slut Chris Jericho.
which I know is going to be a shirt. It has to be a shirt.
One bit, which I mean, not a lot of people overly will understand, but I did, and it was kind of the point of it. The Sammy Hager thing, and Jericho being like, "Ha, that's kind of funny, Sammy Hager," and then Guevara being like, "What?" And Jericho just being like, "Nope, nope, I'm." You don't get it. You don't get it. It's a music reference. Don't worry about it. Um,
Uh,
but it was just a fun little segment, an inner circle bit, which leads into the tag match next week to basically
yep.
determine who will be the tag team of the inner circle.
If I had to pick one, I hope it's Proud and Powerful
Agreed,
because
100%.
I don't want to see them not going for the tag titles. The fact that they haven't been going for them right now is a shame because them going against the Bucks, them going against FTR would have been amazing.
Like, sure,
Like,
we've gotten it, but like,
but there's certain levels when it's a championship match, they pull out a better match.
well, exactly. Give us the Bucks versus Proud and Powerful on Revolution, and
Yeah, like
we're gonna get an absolute classic.
just say to the guys, "Hey, so this is what we need the finish to be."
Yep.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, we had the Bucks and Proud and Powerful at Full Gear 2019,
Yeah,
which was great, and we had the nice little bit with um, who was it? Rock and Roll Express, right? Ricky Morton and
oh god, no.
ho ho, that shows my brain right now. Robert Gibson, Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson, right? Right?
Yeah,
Right?
Robert Gibson and Ricky Morton. I was just like, we're not gonna not have this name.
Oh, but yeah, here's hoping. And then we go into what was a very interesting segment. It was supposed to be
Yeah.
the Elite. Don Callis telling the Bucks like, you do your entrance after.
Well, actually, before we do that, there was a kind of nice little Dark Order interview where they talked about how everything that they're doing from now on is for Brody Lee.
Yes, that was nice. I
And
forgot
the
about
only
that.
reason I wanted to mention that is just because of that, and that Adam is going to tell them next week whether he's going to join Dark Order or
That
not.
is right. I can't believe I missed that in my notes. Thank you. Thank
No,
you.
no, you're good.
Yes.
I just those were two really important things that I wanted to mention.
Yes, that was I am looking forward to seeing the Adam Page outcome out of all this.
I kind of want him to join Dark Order, just because the way Kenny's doing his thing,
I do too.
it's going to be perfect.
Hey man, blood and guts.
I
Blood and guts.
But it's just sad that it can't be Brody in that match.
Yeah.
Like Dark Order, Brody. Like I'm gonna anytime there's a match with Dark Order, I'm just gonna be like, it's sad that Brody can't be in this match.
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
speaking of Dark Order and Brody and whatnot, really quick thing, not that they'll ever see it, but as of the airing date of this, happy birthday to -1 Brody Lee Jr.
I think he's 16 now.
Oh, we could only wish. We could only wish
What
he was
is?
that close to his contract.
How old is he? I thought he
No,
was
he's like
15 right
10.
now. Oh, I thought he was 15, right? I thought that's what they were
No,
saying.
no,
Okay, well,
he's
my
like
bad.
10 today, if I'm not
Oh,
mistaken. I
okay.
believe he turns
Well,
10.
that's my mistake. I thought I heard them say he was like 14 or something the last time he was
I
on.
I absolutely wish.
Yeah, so yeah. Okay. Anyway, we'll move on now. What, like you were saying, we had Don Callis talking to the Young Bucks and Kenny, and
Yeah, and telling the Bucks like, you do your entrance second. Kenny
yeah,
came out,
it's
did his
special.
entrance.
Yeah,
They were supposed to be facing Varsity Blondes, which is who the fuck is Griff Garrison, and Brian Pillman Jr. And Danny Limelight, who was a new name for me personally
I
as of
think he's been
Wednesday.
on Dark a couple times because
More
the
than
name
likely.
is familiar. I've definitely heard that name said before, but
But yeah, Kenny comes out and Callis begins the introductions, and I mean we're talking, and we both said it, like it's not the Bucks.
no, yeah, there was sometimes there's booking decisions that just make sense, and you have to do it that way,
Yeah.
and this was one of them.
So the Good
Like,
Brothers, Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows came out, and I really like the bit with the Bucks standing there with Tony Khan in the back, being like, "Okay, yep,
mhm.
sure." Um,
Yeah,
so we
and when they, yeah, like actually, yeah, I'll mention that later. We'll
okay.
continue on.
So yeah, so we got Kenny and the Good Brothers, which were still announced as the Elite. Um,
And it's interesting because of what Good Brothers do on Hard to Kill. That's
exactly.
why it's so interesting.
So anyways, the Elite comes out of that very obviously. No disrespect to the Varsity Blondes and Danny Limelight, but they weren't winning. Uh,
No, there was no chance. It's Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers.
so
Sorry.
we have that, and then the once again whole kind of brawl uh breaks out. Mox coming out.
Yep.
Just a lot of fists being thrown, and I would assume this is where you want to bring up your Bucks point.
Yeah, so when the Bucks actually came out, um, they weren't in the gear that they were in when they were about to enter. They'd actually gone back to their dressing room and taken the belt off, changed out of a sweater. Like they were in different clothing. Not their pants and stuff like that. They still had their wrestling gear, but the sweater, they didn't have the title belts and stuff like that. They left. They didn't just stay in the back.
That is a very, very good observation that I don't think I even noticed.
Yeah, well, because they were wearing sweaters when they were going out,
Okay.
and when they came out, they were both in t-shirts. I'm like 90% sure of that. If I'm
Okay.
wrong, I apologize, but I saw it like that.
Hey, man. If you're right, like that's a fantastic observation. But yeah, so they come out to basically try and chill Mox out. Because
Yeah.
Mox is on a paradigm spree.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'd be pretty pissed off too.
And then the very confusing point to come out of
It
that
was odd.
brawl was Lucha Bros um
Yeah.
taking out Matt and Nick.
We're definitely going to get something, and I don't know where AEW is going with this, but I'm so forward with it. And just as long as this ends with the Bucks joining Kenny's team in some fashion, I think it'll be amazing.
It's going to be very interesting to see the outcome. But yeah, big brawl, all that crap. And then next one I have is the very like it just seemed like a messy segment. I don't know if
But
it.
not the worst show segment on a wrestling show this week.
Yeah, we'll get around to that here hopefully soon. But yeah, we had the waiting room. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, Reba Rebel, whatever. And Cody. We had
We were
Jade.
supposed to get a Cody interview, but it really never happened. Jade
Yeah,
came out.
Jade Cargill
And
came out.
yeah.
And then I think it's Red Velvet, which
Mhm.
one of the dirt sheets actually had reported that it was Brandy who came out, and they got a lot of fire for it.
Well, when I first saw the girl, Red
Well,
Velvet, I
when it
thought
first
it
cut,
was
I'm like,
Brandy.
Brandy? Oh, nope, that is not Brandy. But like it
Yeah,
was. Well, you're talking. There was a lot of people starting to
well,
gather
exactly.
in
It
one
was such a
area.
busy scene. Like,
Um, and then we are informed that Thunder Rosa and Britt Breaker will happen at Beach Bash. Beach Bash.
yeah, Beach Bash. And interesting, Brit can control the, I don't know if they call it the Titantron, the big
The
LED board
Yeah,
with her
that was
phone.
so awkward. Uh,
Yeah.
and if I can recommend one waiting room from Dark, personally speaking, because I just found it this week browsing YouTube, um, Marco Stunt did a musical performance back about a week ago, and kid's talented. I don't
Yeah.
know why he got into pro wrestling with a voice like that, but if you want a good waiting room segment to watch, go and watch Marco Stunt singing on the waiting room. He did an original song. It is very, very good.
Well, speaking of Marco,
Speaking of Marco, what a good segue.
yeah.
Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy Jack Perry, and Marco Stunt against FTR, Dax and Cash.
Yep.
Luchasaurus came
Uh,
out with Jurassic Express and then just
and
kind of
then
pissed
left,
off.
even though Tully was going to be ringside for FTR. No offense to Luchasaurus, you've been around for millions of years. You should have saw that coming.
Plus, you've got a PhD, dude. Come on.
Yeah, like, come on.
You're a dinosaur with a PhD. Keeping
Yeah, and
kayfabe.
like,
Keeping kayfabe.
yeah. But as we mentioned, it's weird that Luchasaurus didn't come out because Tully gets involved, and it pretty much, well, it's not like it costs them the match. They probably would have lost without Tully getting involved.
But it was a big factor in the outcome of the match.
Exactly, absolutely.
But yeah, FTR wins. Very,
Hitting the
very
big rig.
obviously.
I think that's the first time it's been hit as big rig.
As Big Rig, I believe so, because I don't think they've competed. This is their first time competing since Brody passed.
Yeah, and so for people who don't know, I don't know what the movie used to be called.
Midnight Express.
So yeah, it used to be Midnight Express, and they've changed it to the Big Rig and they got permission to do that from his wife, right, Brody's wife,
From Amanda as well as Tony Khan, yes.
as well as Tony, to be able to call their move Big Rig, which is Brody's former nickname.
Yep.
Back in the independent scene, I think.
Independence, yep.
Yeah. But FTR defeats Jurassic Express.
And then the next one I have on here is the NWA Women's World Championship match.
Yep.
That's yours.
Oh.
Serena Deeb, the current champion, versus Ty Conti. Impressive showing.
Oh, yeah.
It was a very we talked about it on podcast Zero really quick about the women's division needing to stand out more. And if we can have consistent matches like that, it
was very simple storytelling, like Ty Conti.
Tynara.
She's clearly the more inexperienced wrestler, but that doesn't mean she's not got the skill to be able to pull off a win, because she almost had Serena a couple times.
Yeah, and I mean, talking about Ty Conti, and talking about like the inexperience in a sense, it's the same as Anna Jay. They seem to get it. They seem to get it, even with the inexperience.
Like they're green, but they're not as green as some of WWE's top girls.
Exactly.
And I'm not knocking anyone, because they can all kick my ass.
Well, exactly. As somebody from outside sitting here saying like being green. Like it's absolutely no disrespect.
No, it's
Because I
just
mean
we've seen a
you've
lot of
got more
wrestlers.
than we do. You got more experience than we do. You want to talk
Yeah,
about green? Like we're not even in that color zone.
we're not.
But
We're like green. We'd probably be pink.
we'd be fucking
Like
gray, my dude. We wouldn't even
maybe,
have
who
any
knows?
pigment yet.
We're just, yeah. We don't know anything to do about actually physically wrestling. We know a lot about the brain side of
The
wrestling.
knowledge side of it and whatnot.
Yeah,
But like solid match. Serena Deeb coming out on top.
of course, because the NWA title isn't going to get change hands on AEW's show, unfortunately.
And if it does, it'll be on pay-per-view. Um,
Absolutely, because it's
and
one of those belts that's protected.
it will be a not to take away from this match. It'll be a bigger deal because
Yeah,
you
they'll have a
damn
lot
well
of build
know
to it.
NWA is not gonna just let it happen.
Well, when Serena defeated
Thunder Rosa.
Thunder Rosa, it was a big match. Like, NWA made big like announcements about it, saying like this is the match. Like, it was clear, writing was on the wall that this was going to be the change. Like, and no offense to Ty here, she just wasn't going to be that girl.
Yeah, not yet, not yet.
Not yet,
But
but
once
in the
again,
future.
and then the main event.
Yeah.
Jesus. Um,
Darby, I hope you're okay.
Yeah, we had the TNT championship match. Darby Allin coming in as champion against Brian Cage.
And somehow did not get murdered.
Months of build.
Oh, yes.
The
Absolutely.
spots in the match, Darby from the ring to the outside through a table, and not a table beside ringside, the announce table. Or
Yeah,
like not the announce table, the
timekeeper's table.
Timekeeper's table, yeah. Justin Roberts, timekeeper, Doc
Like
Samson, goes,
the
guys like that.
TNT title was sitting right there.
He freaking smacked his head off the chair.
Yeah, and it looked horrible the way he landed. They didn't clear anything off except for, I think, the TNT title wasn't on the
I
the
don't think it
table.
was on the table.
I think Roberts probably grabbed it as they left. But other than that, the table had everything that would have been on it. Probably had the ring bell on it still.
Oh, more than likely. We finally saw Sting in a way get physical. It is the first time he has hit somebody in general. It was with the bat, Ricky Starks.
Since Rollins, that's the first time he's gotten physical.
Yeah, and that's been 4 years.
4
years or so.
Rollins was allowed to wear white back then, so
I think that was 2016, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But very good match. Like I was thoroughly entertained with the whole match. Yeah. There was a few times where I kind of had to like look away a bit because I'm like, shit, he's gonna die.
Well, I had watched this match live with you, and then I watched it back again, and I reacted the same way both times.
It was insane.
It's just one of those matches you watch through your fingers when they're doing certain spots. You're like, oh, is he gonna break him in half? Like, yep. Jesus.
But Darby comes out on top, big win.
Surprisingly, I actually thought we were gonna get Brian winning the title here.
Yeah, because we were discussing it as we were watching it. I was hoping Darby was coming out of it, but I wasn't sure.
I just didn't know how they would get Brian to lose, and the way they did it was perfect.
Yep.
It was a crucifix bomb into a pin, which it's perfect. It's a surprise roll-up, basically, but it also has power behind it, causing Brian to lose. Exactly. Like, because Brian's a big guy. You can't just beat him with a roll-up.
Big dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, very solid show.
Yeah, and we'll give it our rating when we come back after NXT and Smackdown and Hard to Kill.
Yeah, which thankfully Smackdown isn't going to be hard to run through.
Not at all.
We got a decent card from NXT, a really decent card from Hard to Kill, but we'll definitely try and get through it quicker. So that way
we shot through Impact in less than 20 minutes.
Exactly. So NXT, the other side of the Wednesday Night Wars, as it's being called.
The side that you and I haven't really seen a whole lot of up until right now.
So I found it really awkward. One thing, being the first time I've watched it in a while, Beth Phoenix is doing her commentary remotely, and I find it really awkward as she's talking during matches and you're only seeing the two at the announce desk, and then they like focus on Wade and Vic Joseph at the announce desk, and it's only them talking, and then suddenly Beth is back during the next match. It's very,
Yeah, I
but I
noticed
mean,
that. I noticed that during what was the last week's called?
New Year's Evil,
New Year's Evil. Yeah, they went and talked to Wade and
Vic Joseph.
Vic Joseph, and then it cuts, and then it's starting the match. I'm like, wait, what? Beth? What? Hello?
Yeah, which I mean, the thing is I'm glad she's still able to work even remotely in that. But it just
Oh, it's
it's a
great.
very like, as somebody, once again, I haven't watched NXT since it went live on USA, which I mean we're talking a year and a half ago, right around
Right.
Dynamite's debut. So as somebody just kind of getting back in, like I've kept up with the results a bit and
Yeah, like
watched
I
the
knew who the
takeovers
champions
here and
were and
there.
stuff like that.
Um but it was very interesting. But yeah, so we opened the show, Shotzi Blackheart versus Candice LeRae with Indy Hartwell. Part of the Way is what they're called.
Yeah, and I mean, this was a really, really good match to start off NXT. And I mean, they have to when they're competing with Dynamite.
One thing I did notice as I put in a note here really quick, because I haven't watched NXT, I don't know how long they've been doing it. I'm not gonna try and call it out as anything. I'm not trying to put that divide there, but NXT is doing picture in picture now.
Oh, I noticed that too. I don't know when they started doing that, but they've started doing that now.
Well, like I said, I don't mean to put that divide there, but we very well know why they're doing picture in picture.
Absolutely. WWE has never ever once done that in their years and years of TV deals.
At least from my knowledge, yeah, exactly. They
I
haven't
I I can't ever recall watching John Cena and Randy Orton go
during a
to
picture in
picture in
picture,
picture.
yeah.
Like,
So it's interesting, and it's interesting that it's only for NXT.
yeah, they're not doing it on the main roster, so it's clearly because they have to compete.
And I mean, the
And
thing is,
that
Raw's on USA Network, so you can't even give me it's a different network or something. Raw's on USA, NXT is on USA.
it would be fine if they didn't do it on Fox because Fox doesn't want to do that. But why don't they do it on Raw? Maybe
So
because they have 3 hours and they're like, well, we're already fucking pushing the envelope here.
pretty well. Um, but yeah, so very decent
And
opening match with the women.
yeah, and I mean the Candice LeRae, she gets the win here, and it was just a really good match. Like nothing I could complain about really.
No, really decent. They come back from commercial with Finn Balor, which I'll be honest, I forgot how much I love Finn Balor
Hmm.
because I have not watched Finn in a very long time. Finn Balor was one of the people on the main roster. I've been a big fan of Finn. I watched actually when I started getting into New Japan was around the rise of Prince Devitt.
Right.
Which I didn't watch actively, but I made sure to watch a lot of his stuff. Him coming over to NXT, becoming Finn Balor, I watched basically his stuff for sure if I wasn't watching the rest of the card. Coming
Hmm.
up to the main roster, I mean, I jumped and cheered. And I remember him coming back down to NXT, and I wasn't watching NXT because it aired at the same time as Dynamite. And
Yep.
I was like, I prefer Dynamite. Um,
Yeah, and
not
that's just
not saying
yeah,
anything against NXT, but it was like that's a lot of wrestling. It's already a
it
lot of
is.
wrestling in the week. I just wasn't watching NXT. Not to mention I don't get USA, so I wasn't
Yeah.
actively watching it. But I forgot how much I missed, or like how much I love Finn Balor, and that promo and him being the line that I loved was they no longer manufacture the cloth that I'm cut from.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, where was this Finn on the main roster? Like, you would have guaranteed gotten that world title
Sad.
back, like the second you got back from injury, if we had this. And once again, I've said it multiple times talking to WWE shit. That's not on him.
No,
It's
it
not
is
on
not.
him.
It is entirely the booking.
Uh, But Balor's
But
promo,
he calls out and just says, "Whoever wants a fight." And
yep,
then, well,
Dunn, Pete Dunn, Oney
yeah, he wants a
Lorcan, and
fight.
Danny Burch come out. Um,
And I mean, this is going to be an amazing match.
oh
Pete
yes,
Dunne versus Finn Balor.
it's
I'm
gonna
already picturing the shots that are being taken in
like
this match.
5 star now. I'm saying like
I've seen Pete Dunne with the WWE UK Championship in Windsor in Impact taping, which was really, really weird.
yeah.
Yeah,
One of these things just doesn't belong
yeah,
here.
yeah. Like we were just, it was, hey, here's a Pete Dunne match defending the WWE UK title, and now we're going live to Impact.
It was so weird. I remember you messaging me during that because that was just a few weeks after we met, and I just
Yeah,
remember being like, "What?"
yeah. I don't know how that booking decision got made, but I was laughing and I loved it. Like,
But yeah, they come out, beat down on Balor. Undisputed Era makes a save. O'Reilly coming out first and whatnot.
and then obviously we had that pause holding on Finn and Adam
Yep.
because Bullet Club ties.
But yeah, that was I noticed that. I had noticed that, yeah. But yeah, good segment. And then we get into the first round of Dusty Cup. Grizzled young veterans against Everrise.
Again, it was a really good match, but you could tell who was going to win out of this just by the
Well,
presentation of it.
Grizzled young vets got an entrance and got the mic.
Yeah. Well,
And
and
they
obviously.
kind of side mentioned Everrise right off the bat.
Yeah, they're like,
So
oh, and here's our opponent's Uprise.
yeah, there we go. But yeah, Grizzled Young Vets pick up the win, and I mean the tag team action through the night was very decent.
Oh yeah, no, this was, and it was a very heavy tag NXT.
Yeah,
This,
which it will be
uh,
for the next few weeks because of the
yeah,
Dusty Cup.
well, we have the women's and the men's Dusty Cup,
Yes.
so that's
Um.
really, really cool.
Gargano. They did the backstage bit with getting the drawings from Dexter Loomis. Which I'm really intrigued. Having not seen this Dexter Loomis character, I'm very intrigued
Hmm.
by it. So I'm looking forward to watching in the coming weeks. But yeah, we got Gargano against Loomis with Austin Theory at ringside.
Yeah,
And Gargano wins with the distraction.
yeah.
Um, like just like not to run through it to make it seem like it wasn't worth it, but like the action from NXT, like we shit on Raw and SmackDown. Well, Raw right now. We're getting to SmackDown, but just because of the way the action it felt, NXT's action was solid. Like they were
Oh yeah.
solid matches.
Well, and that's just the issue is when WWE has to compete, they put out good content. When WWE is the top guy and they don't really have to compete against anybody for ratings, this is what you see is what happens on Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah, and
NXT, yeah.
this is why Wednesdays are very decent. Like that's the thing. Like even Dynamite, like we kind of like flew through Dynamite's card, and it's not to say that there was not stuff worth talking. It's just
No.
the content is so good that we don't have to stop and be like this point here was because
Yeah, and
it's
yeah,
decent.
that's why Raw took so long because we would get to a point and we'd go, well, and then this really bugged us, and we would talk about that. Like, whereas with NXT, Impact, Dynamite, we're not doing that. We've loved
They're good
consistently.
cards.
They are really good cards, and I'm sure Raw and SmackDown are gonna get better. I'm sure they will.
Like we were saying earlier, once the fans are back, they'll step up their game, guaranteed.
Absolutely. But they're just right now it's lacking something.
It is.
Um,
But
and I mean, yeah, it was a good match with Gargano winning, like you had said.
yeah, and then we had Kushida attack Gargano. Loomis got a hold of Theory. Just really nice bit there.
Yeah, it was a really good one.
Next segment was the sit down talk between Tommaso Ciampa, who I'm a complete fan of, and
Yes.
Timothy Thatcher talking about the fight pit, which I watched the first fight pit. That was like one of the first NXT things I had watched in a long time.
Yeah.
Um, I'm I'm very much so looking forward to it. The first fight pit was really good. And having Ciampa in this one, the um the segment felt odd. Just them sitting there getting really angry at each other,
Well,
and
yeah,
then
and
nothing.
Timothy Thatcher, some of the way he would talk didn't really resonate well with me.
Yeah,
Like, not nothing he said bugged me, it's just the way he said it.
yeah, like you're going into
Like,
such a big fight, and you're just kind of like the promo you're trying to give off isn't
yeah, whereas,
like
like, for Tommaso, him being as quiet as he was, that Tommaso. Timothy, for his character, I haven't seen a whole lot of him, so maybe his character is similar to that too, but just looking at him, he doesn't look like that kinda character.
exactly.
So, I don't know, but,
Excuse me.
I've never seen a fight pit match. I'm looking forward to it because 'cause I've heard they're quite good.
There's only been the one before, if I'm not
Well, yeah,
mistaken.
yeah, sorry.
But and then we get the next match in the Dusty Cup, which is MSK, uh, which formerly for Impact and that the Rascals, who I've seen live.
Yeah, this was, when I knew as soon as I saw it was MSK, I knew exactly who that was because the Rascals just did their sign off to for Impact,
Yeah.
but it was
Uh,
still a really cool moment. They had a fantastic match.
I very
Um,
very much so dislike the names they gave them.
yeah, I wasn't a fan of the names, but
But yeah, MSK versus Jake Atlas and Isaiah Swerve Scott. Once
there
again, a
was
solid tag match.
there was a moment where one of the members of MSK goes to hit a tope, and the commentator makes a joke, goes, "These rascals are high flying."
Yeah, I heard that and I was like, good job, nice,
I was
nice.
like, "Hey, you really slid that in there, didn't you?"
But MSK picks up the victory there. Very good match. And this next segment, it's the first time I've actually seen it in full. I've seen some of the clips of the vignettes on Twitter and that for Xia Li.
Yeah,
Um, First off, the entrance
it's really cool.
is one of the sickest fucking entrances. Like they started going around with like the video boards being all what it is, and I the only part that cut it for me, which I can understand it, but it's when she starts to do the routine with whatever weapon she has. That
Mhm.
like it was really really awesome, and then she started kind of doing the flippy shit with it, and then went super serious and got in the ring again. And so I was like, that bit, I get it. I get it. It goes with the character. And I mean, like last week it was the size that she used. This week it was the staff. So I get it. It's just
Yeah.
it felt weird in there, but I'm so utterly intrigued
Mhm.
by this.
Something interesting that I really noticed is they said Boa was with him or with her. The name that was on the Titantron or whatever you wanna call it, the big screen, was Tian Sha. So that must be the name of the person in the chair, because
Okay.
they didn't ever say that name on the thing, but I read it clearly on the Titan thing, and when their names came up, it said, Xia Li and Boa, and then underneath it had this logo that said Tian Sha.
Well, it'll be interesting to see in the coming weeks for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
so I don't know if that was a mistake on NXT's part.
Different
Um,
night, wrong night, different
my
promotion. Ah.
Yeah, exactly,
We were talking
but it
MSK. It's
yeah,
okay.
exactly.
It's okay. Um,
But it'll be interesting to see for sure.
I didn't even get the opponent's name. I don't even think it was
They didn't
said.
say it. They didn't
Like
say it.
it was two
My it
freaking hits. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I have hard right, then a big kick and gets the pin.
and then the post match kind of beat down. It was handled really really awesome in my opinion. So like that's what I'm saying. I'm so intrigued to see where they're going with this.
Mhm. Okay, and now my favorite segment, well, not my favorite segment, but my favorites to win the Women's Dusty Cup announced their entrance. Casey
Uh,
Catanzaro and Caden Carter.
yeah.
I love this team. I freaking love Casey. I don't know who Caden is, but I love Casey, and I hope she wins. I just want to
I
see her do good things.
when I saw who they were up against though,
I know, but
I
I
don't
want
think they're
them to
going
win.
further than first round. I'd love them to because I am also a fan, but I think they're gonna be stopped at round one, sadly, going up against Tony Storm and Mercedes Martinez next week. Sadly,
Hey, you don't
but
know that. There's things that I thought for sure would happen this week that definitely didn't happen. So,
you know
and
what,
I can't
Blake?
talk about them yet because
I'll
we
uh
haven't talked about them yet.
I'll let you keep your hopes up. Who knows? Who knows? But um,
Exactly.
and then going into the main event in that, we had the little bit with Pete Dunne and them backstage again, being like, "We're gonna take out O'Reilly,"
Yeah, and then we just had Adam Cole, baby, saying, "Do it."
and so we got yeah, we got Breezango versus Roderick Strong and Adam Cole, Undisputed Era. Once again, you want to talk about like a match of the night contender, like.
Yeah, there was times where I had to flip back to make sure I saw it right because I was typing something over on
Oh,
our
it was
notes here.
so awesome.
Like,
Like really, really good match.
yeah.
Pete Dunne and the champs attacked O'Reilly. Finn makes a save. Just,
After the
just
match had finished, right? That wasn't it? Or no, that was during the
Finn
match.
made the save. Like it was going into the finish,
Oh
but
yeah, yeah. So yeah, it was just as the finish was about to happen. I have it here in my notes now. I
and I'm
can see it
so
there.
glad that Breezango, as much as they're like a gimmicky haha type deal as a team, they were in the main event and they put on an absolutely
I
fire
can't tell if
match.
they're still being used as a comedy group in NXT anymore.
Just in the way they're presented at first, and then the second that bell rings, it's almost like the Festus character. Like
Yeah.
it goes from being
Well,
like what the
true.
heck, like okay to oh wow, like you
Yeah,
okay
and I
cool.
think that's a
Not to
testament more
compare
to
them to
Fandango.
Festus. I don't mean to put it in that sense. It was just like a generalized comparison in like the nature of it. And
Yeah,
I mean, look what
exactly.
Festus became. Doc Gallows. We're
I
okay.
Yeah, we're good. Everybody's happy.
But
Um,
Undisputed Era picks up the win there. I don't know if you have any more to contribute to that.
no, I mean Undisputed Era. Besides maybe grizzled young vets, I don't see anybody on their side taking them out of that bracket of the tournament, and I definitely think MSK is going to go all the way to the finals.
More than likely to push them. I mean, they were big signings, so
Well, and they're just fantastic. Like,
moving on to Friday Night Smackdown. This one, seeing as there wasn't a not to put it down, but not a ton to it, and I'm gonna bitch more than anything. I'm gonna try not to. We open the show with Reigns in the back talking about the contract for him and Pierce.
yeah,
Like really, it just you want to talk about opening a show and me sitting there being like, can we do something entertaining?
yeah. Well,
Um,
and then we finally get some in the arena action. I say
well,
action. It's Jay in the or the ring.
I
But when
I
he was coming down, they had this really weird camera effect
okay,
that
so that my friend, I guess you don't know, they are using the Fox NFL 8K cameras.
so that's what that is.
Like a
It's a jarring effect.
very very expensive camera to
Yeah.
say the least.
Well, I saw that it happened when Jay came out, and that's the first time I had ever seen it. And when it happened, I was like, "What is that?" And
Uh
they started doing it progressively through the rest of the night.
like it's well, I saw it too and I didn't know until after the show. I was online and they were like those are like the 8K Fox NFL cameras. And I'm like, that makes a ton of sense. And just like the clarity of it and like the effect that it get, like it was actually
Well,
super awesome.
I really want to see John Morrison's
Oh
slow
my god,
motion.
so bad. Yeah, but the thing is that
Like,
that's Raw, so we won't.
move him to SmackDown.
But yeah, Jey Uso's promo was
He's gonna go win the Royal Rumble and defeat Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship, don't you know?
huh. Anyways, we get Nakamura, Shinsuke Nakamura interrupting, got his old theme back, which
Oh,
is
the
nice.
Rising Sun, that was so good.
He came out, basically instigated the match. Decent match. You know,
Yeah,
no,
can't complain. They're both really good competitors, although Jay is much better as a tag team competitor.
very much so. But I'm glad that they're kind of giving Nakamura a bit more. He deserves it. Deserves it a ton.
And I don't think the stuff with Cesaro is gonna stick around for long.
Just got a comment on here.
Yeah.
Johnny Roberto said, "I never knew Adam Pearce is in the NWA Hall of Fame and is a 5-time NWA World Champ." So I was actually not aware of the Hall of Fame bit. I was aware of the World Championship bit.
I
Um,
didn't know that part.
yeah, I didn't know about the Hall of Fame. That's very very interesting to me. But yeah,
Yeah, he's
the NWA World Champion I was aware of.
that's amazing.
Oh, geez, I would say like I had first heard of Adam Pearce back quite a while ago, just as a side note, talking about like Ring of Honor guys and that. And his name would be
Hmm.
thrown out from time to time, and I was always like, okay. And then the second, like last year when he started getting featured, as like the like basically the new authority figure, um, I was like, oh, so this is who this guy is. And so I mean, it takes only a quick Google search to find out.
Oh no,
And
exactly.
because I didn't know who he was, and then to find out like this dude's got like quite the wrestling history. Like he's not just some random on-screen authority dude. He's got like
Oh yeah.
a decent background behind him, and like he was like an NWA World Champion, you know, and shit like that. Um,
Yeah, and I've been told he's had some fantastic matches.
oh, there are some very good matches you can find out there for sure.
So I wouldn't like, as much as I was mad that he got, or that he's that the situation was with the Royal Rumble and whatever. I just I don't want to see just some random person get tossed into a match without any build is why I don't like it.
It was just the way it happened was very
Yeah.
disappointing, especially because he was a decent wrestler. I'm sure if he put the tights back on, he could be again.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But then
we
we
had
get
a lot of backstage stuff, which is what I
yeah,
find
and
SmackDown has been heavy on. I mean, Street Profits interview, more stuff about the contract with Roman.
there was a lot of stuff about the contract with Roman.
But the
Uh
next thing, oh sorry.
the really interesting thing, speaking of Roman, when Paul comes back after getting the signature from Pierce, he's talking to Apollo Crews
Yeah, yeah,
and
that
tells him to stay and you could learn something. So I feel like Crews has been invited to the table, as it were.
well, that has to do with talking smack. Him and
Okay.
Heyman had a whole bit, and Heyman kind of was um, like come back when you're a champ or some shit like that. And so I think that's where they're coming around with it. Combined days as champion 1000. I take it you are still talking Adam Pearce. Wow.
That's
Wow.
actually impressive.
That is a decent number. Wow.
Yeah, it's very cool. Very,
um
very cool.
but yeah, so
Um,
the next thing I have here is Liv Morgan against Natalia with the whole Billy Kay thing, which
the
once
Riot
again
Squad
makes me confused as to why the hell we broke up the Iconics. Um,
and why we released Sarah Logan and
I don't know. I Natalia won. It was just
Yeah, it was a quick match, and the reason Natalia wins is stupid because Billy gets in the ring, stops Liv from doing a move by just simply getting in her way, and then Natalia rolls her up and wins.
Yeah, I don't know.
Then we had a really cool match
Uh
between Ray and King Corbin.
yep. Rey Mysterio against King Corbin. Which I noticed his lackeys weren't out there. I don't know if something happened last week that I missed, or
There was no mention of it. Why
they weren't even mentioned.
yeah, it was the Knights of the Lone Wolf. Corey
Yes.
mentioned that.
Did he? I
He's
didn't.
like he mentioned their name, but other than that, there was no mention.
Okay.
Yeah, but this match was really good. The whole time Graves is taunting Dominic on commentary, basically saying, "Well, you should stand up for yourself," blah blah blah. And I was really proud of Dominic saying, like, "No, this is my dad's
This
thing. I'm gonna
the
let him do
like
his
my
thing."
dad's
Like,
a legend. He's handled himself for this many years. He doesn't need me to get involved.
yeah, but then he lets Graves get under his skin,
And he gets involved, which
and it costs Ray.
yeah.
And I really don't want them to go Ray versus Dominic. I want to see Ray and Dominic.
Yeah, I'd love to see them win some tag gold or something. That'd be great.
Yeah. I don't see why we have to have mentor versus apprentice. Like, just let us bring Dominic up to Ray's level with Ray.
We don't
Like,
need Dominic to beat Ray or lose to Ray. Like Ray can retire off never having a match against his son. We don't need it.
we
We
don't
don't.
yeah, there exactly. There's no need to do it.
More backstage. I'm at the point where like my notes are like more backstage stuff. Adam Pearce and Paul Heyman on the contract. The Mysterios talking about what happened. Um,
Hey, didn't you like watching the crew set up Ding Dong Hello? We actually watched the camera just why did we see that?
oh, I have some notes about stuff like that from Hard to Kill from prior too, but we'll get to that soon. Yeah, the next segment, which was the best segment of the week. I'm gonna go ahead and activate this. Yeah, we're gonna have a nuclear heat warning. I hope that is not, absolutely killing anybody with headphones.
Yeah.
For anybody who wasn't here for last week's podcast, test 0, nuclear heat warning, where we basically will throw up anytime segment or an opinion is coming up that more than likely will not be well received a whole lot, basically getting us some nuclear backstage heat. Um,
Yeah.
Ding Dong Hello, like why?
It is clearly just a jab at the waiting room from
100%,
Dynamite.
100%.
That is all it is.
Why are you making Bailey a joke? Is
Right?
another one of my
Why is she
points.
a heel but still trying to basically act like the hugger now, doing funny game gimmicks like this?
Like it's not working. And then
Yeah.
we've got Bianca Belair, which
Who I just don't like. I don't like her.
I don't it's such a generic character. It's not it
Yeah. I
I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it. I didn't get it in NXT. I'm not getting it now.
yeah.
That might just be
She
me. I know she's got fans. And
yeah.
that's fine, but that's like any other
That's why we're being
wrestler.
respectful and saying this is probably something that we're alone on.
But I don't understand the hype around her. She's like
No.
decent athlete, but definitely isn't the greatest. Um
The hair really bugs me, the fact that she can whip people with it and then still get yelled at for people pulling her hair. Or
yeah,
not her get yelled, but like people can get
the,
yelled at for pulling her hair.
there's just a continuity issue there. Like
Like,
if you're going to use it, be prepared, and at that point, well, it's either you don't use your hair
yeah.
or you get DQ'd or you use it, and if somebody pulls on it, sucks to suck.
Yeah, if you because when Cody would take off his weight belt and hit somebody with it, chances are he's gonna get hit with it back.
Exactly, the refs wouldn't call it. The refs would be like, "Don't do it," but he'd do it. And then if somebody else grabbed a hold of it and hit him, it wasn't like it was a disqualification on the other side.
No, exactly. It's just there's continuity issues, and Belair is been at the front of them for a lot of them for me.
Yeah. So, but that segment was just it
Remember how I said
sucked.
there was a this that the waiting room wasn't the worst show? Yeah, this is.
Yeah. And for that, I don't even want to stick on it. So, let's
No,
move
we're
back to
done
the
with it.
results. So next up,
Daniel Bryan versus Cesaro. This was a
good
great.
good match. Good match. I mean, you're talking once again, I say it a lot, two of you know, potentially the best pro wrestlers in the world. Like, that list is long. That list isn't shortened to 5 or something like that. There is a lot of
No.
people on that list when they're used properly. And I mean, Cesaro has
Oh yeah.
been a fantastic wrestler for years, hasn't
He's
gotten what
been
he
one of their
needs.
most usable guys. Like he won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal probably when they had no other options because who
Well, it was the
expected
very
him to
first
win it?
one. It was the very first
Like
one at Mania 30.
yeah, besides getting somebody like Big Show to come out and be like, "Hey, remember me?" There was no other point in having somebody win, and so they just put it on a really good worker
Yep. And then I mean, you're talking somebody like Daniel Bryan,
who again,
consistently
really
one of the
good
best
worker.
performers over the years.
One
Um,
of the members of FTR tweeted this week, "How is," or
how is
maybe it was
Daniel
last
Bryan
week.
so good?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
just
I agree.
yeah, I totally agree. How is he that damn good? Like
Um, like, other than it was a good match, like, I've got nothing else to say about it. With
there,
with
yeah, I
with Cesaro picking up the win.
yeah, and cleanly, like, and out of nowhere too, because Ryan Brian was about to do the is it running foot stomp or whatever into the corner,
Something like
whatever.
that, yeah.
But anyway, and then just all of a sudden, just a boom
Yeah,
uppercut,
just
and then he's
takes
out.
him out.
Like
But
just
yeah,
perfect. And
decent
then we had
match.
another
I
Caleb
literally
Braxton interviewed
I l-
Carmella.
I literally have on my notes, I kid you not, it says more backstage stuff. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Like, that is literally my notes, cuz at this point I was like, how many more backstage segments can we get?
a few.
Um
So this one was Carmella with Reginald. And basically Sasha just came in and said, "Yeah, you can get your title match, but I want to
I'm
fight
fight
Reginald
him.
first."
Yeah, I
Wh-
next match.
Why?
Apollo Crews and Sami Zayn, Big E at ringside. Can I just say how much I love Big E? He's fantastic. Mini fridge, couch. I love Big E.
Did you see his sweater? It was a Ghostbusters sweater. Just the one thing I'm disappointed is WWE has not gotten him side plates yet. It
I,
was still the WWE logo.
okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. Decent match
Yeah.
though. Zayn went for the win by pulling the tights, didn't get it, and Cruz ended up winning by pulling his tights. So
And a really nice touch that will probably come into Zayn's conspiracy documentary. The tights were pulled to the camera side of SmackDown's camera crew, not Zayn's camera crew.
yeah, oh
So
yeah.
Zayn's documentary does not have footage of Apollo cheating.
So I love Sami Zayn, another guy, great wrestler, and the
Yeah.
fact that he can do this whole conspiracy theorist gimmick and actually make it work, I'm enjoying.
Right.
Um,
We've had this gimmick before with Miz and R-Truth, and this is an example of it working versus not working.
exactly. And then we had the little bit with Cruz and E outside. It just,
They're gonna end up fighting for the title, and it's gonna be Cruz winning it
and
with
then
the help of Reigns.
yeah, exactly. It's exactly what's gonna happen, which kind of sucks, but.
It does because Big E deserves like a year-long reign with that fucking belt.
And then we go into the final segment of the night, which was just, it was bullshit through bullshit, in my
Why did
opinion.
we need Adam to sign the contract twice?
Because when he signed it the first time, it was a no disqualification, and Roman
Well,
didn't want no
I got
disqualification.
that, but why did we have to have him come out to the ring to do it? Is mainly my
Because
question.
why not? But yeah, they came
Because
out, he signed, walked up on the ramp. They had a shit ton of audio issues at the end. I don't know if you
I
noticed.
I did because Adam was talking and I was like, "What are you
At
saying?"
one point, they cut to the arena audio because you could hear the ambient background noise. Um,
Yeah,
and then he announces Kevin Owens is gonna fight for him.
and it completely rights the wrong that was made last week.
It just I like I love Owens. I'm a
I do
huge Kevin
too.
Owens fan. I was a huge Kevin Steen fan. I'm like, why? Why did we go through all this bullshit for this?
Yeah.
Why?
Like,
Get
why didn't we just get Kevin versus in a last man standing
like,
match?
let's just
Like,
have a decent build up without you doing this shit. But
yeah,
anyways,
but hey, you know what? In the end, we are getting probably Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns in a last man standing match. I say probably because who knows? Next week they
who
could change it.
knows? Well, let's just say we got 2 weeks. And then on to the final show here, which um it'll take probably about 15-20 minutes to run through, and then we'll get into our final segments here of the show. We're pushing almost 3 hours here, so
Yeah.
we'll try and get off before about 3.5 hours hits. Which
Apologies for being so long on this, but
which at the end will explain what's going to be going on, hopefully going forward as of next week for the cast, so that way we're not like this. But anyways, Impact's
yes.
Hard to Kill last night.
To start it off, something that you will definitely love, D'Lo Brown and Matt Striker welcome us into the Impact Zone.
Okay, I like Matt Striker. I've met Matt Striker before a SmackDown ECW event in 2007. As a kid, he was, I mean, he was a heel on TV at the time. He was the nicest guy to me. Which, I mean, a lot of these guys are, not all of them are. But, like, there was so many people wanting autographs. I didn't have anything for him to sign. He literally came over, shook my hand, and talked to me for 2-3 minutes.
That's amazing.
Like, super, like, just, like, super awesome down to earth guy. And then I mean D'Lo
Yeah.
Brown, I mean, you talk about somebody with like a lot of knowledge for this sport, and it's D'Lo
Oh
Brown.
yeah.
So to put them on commentary, I'll tell you right now, I already enjoy Impact 10 times better. Hear that,
Well,
Josh Matthews? Sorry. Anyways,
Striker, just his calls are on point.
phenomenal.
Like he would say things. They started talking about strategy of pins just because that's something Striker knows about.
One thing that I really enjoyed was during the women's match, he brought up a point of like the I don't remember who it was. It was Tennille, being, a very good looking woman. Just stating a fact. And instead of doing what I kind of expected to happen, which isn't a knock on him. It's just I think I'm so used to the commentary style. He immediately went with but even though she's, incredibly good looking, on top of that, as a performer, she is just as good, if not better, than how she looks. And I was like,
Yeah.
very, very smooth
Well
on,
worded and
like instead of like, because like if he wouldn't have, it would have been on the dirt sheets like, oh, he focused on, Tennille just being hot through the match.
well,
No.
that was like what happened when JR called out a potential wardrobe malfunction and everybody's like, why the hell did we need to see that? Like there
Yeah,
wasn't one.
but but that's the thing, like when he first started going into that, I'm like, uh-oh, here comes like, and once again, I don't want to disrespect JR. I mean, he was the voice of me growing up. I love JR.
Yeah.
He's a legend. But when he made that comment that night, it was like, we really didn't need that, JR. And
I
so
can
for
definitely see why WWE took him off commentary. I definitely see why. He is a little hard to keep on a script. It's just what
it
it is.
just is the fact. But yeah, they new commentary team, and they were piping in crowd sounds, which to be honest helped so damn much.
Yeah, it really did. Now, it wasn't like any specific crowd noise. It was just generic noise. Like there wasn't pops when
There
somebody's
was
entrance music.
pops during some of the matches,
Yeah, okay, here and there,
but
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 like
it wasn't as often.
yeah,
Um,
and but like even when the entrance music would hit, we wouldn't get like the big loud pop that we would normally get,
but
which I
it
think
helped though.
it did. It really did.
One thing that I'd like to note on the pre-show, if you tuned in quite a ways before the pre-show, they started the feed up really early. As they were setting up the ring, the cameras actually went live, and Havoc, Nevaeh, Kiara Hogan, and Tasha Steelz were actually in the ring planning out
No.
some of the bits of their match.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
because
it's not like it's bad, but like,
well, I mean, I've seen it before at indie shows. You show up a little early and like you see the guys in the ring kind of planning out the spots and then they head back. But it was just like I loaded up the pre-show late, so I was backing it up and I was kind of scrolling through all like the the loud frequency just like camera offline type shit, and I happened to
yeah.
come across that, and like they're still setting up the ring, the mat isn't even pulled tight yet, and the four of them are in the ring planning out spots, and I'm like,
So they disassemble the ring every night then,
they
or for
must,
every
I
show?
I would assume the ropes for sure and the mat
Oh, so
just to
that
make
way stuff
sure.
doesn't get pulled and ruined and
Yeah.
stuff.
But the pre-show, it was just the panel. We had a Kenny and Good Brothers and Callus segment of like, we got Moose on a contract. It sucked for him to, you know, have a
Yeah,
shitty
and
2 years.
they showed that basically same segment later in the show, but just between Moose and Dawn.
Yeah. We had Josh Alexander versus Brian Myers, which Brian Myers won. Pretty decent match. And to finish off the pre-show, so we can get into the main card. After 12 years of some incredible work, I remember when she first came into TNA wrestling at the time. I've seen her live. Gotten to talk with her. Really, really nice person. And I mean some really amazing work in and outside the ring. Madison Rain announced her retirement last night. So wishing all the best to you and all of your future endeavors, whatever that may be. Thank you for 12 great years. I thoroughly enjoyed basically every moment that I've gotten to see. Uh,
Yeah, I don't remember seeing a whole lot from her because like I wasn't big on TNA when it first started. But what I do remember of her, she was an amazing performer. And yeah, and even when she was on commentary, she was the best of the commentary team the last few months for
yep,
Impact. However long they were on commentary together, she was definitely the shining star of that team.
very much so. So yeah, like I said, I've gotten to meet her. I've gotten to talk to her for a few minutes. So
She
wishing
just
wish
seems like one of those down to earth people.
very much so, very much so. So wishing you all the best in your retirement and whatever you happen to do next.
Yeah.
Madison
Hopefully
Rain.
something to do with wrestling in
It'd be
some
nice.
fashion.
It'd definitely be nice.
Yeah.
Um, but moving on to the main card, we start off Impact's Hard to Kill with Decay, Rosemary.
Reuniting
Yeah.
again and
Ro-
officially this time.
yes, yeah, officially, actually, yeah. Rosemary and Crazy Steve versus Tennille Dashwood and Caleb with a K. Um, solid opener. Solid
Oh
opener to the
yeah.
pay per view.
I and all honesty, Caleb really surprised me in this match.
He,
Like
he was decent, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like Steve did a lot of the work, a lot of the heavy lifting because of course that's Steve. He's crazy. He's got a
Really?
move. He's got his moves and he has to do the heavy lifting in a lot
yep.
of his moves. And the one thing I'll say about Caleb, or not about Caleb, about Steve, he is bringing back that DDT finish that
Yep.
we just talked about earlier on Raw. He comes from the middle rope and hits a double underhook DDT. It looks badass, and I can't wait for him to get a name for it.
It looks good. But yeah, so Decay picks up the win there. And then going into the next match, which I
Immediately,
personally,
like
yeah,
they immediately rolled into this match, basically.
um,
Like,
I want to give a little bit of praise here in a minute. It was Old School Rules, Violent by Design, which is Diener, which apparently he's going by just Diener now from the
oh,
way
is
they
he?
announced
Okay,
him. Yeah. At least that's what I heard. Diener, Eric
okay.
Young, and Joe Doring, which, like I said, I'll get into in a minute.
And they
Versus
finally named their group, which is cool.
yes, which I actually enjoyed the name.
Yeah, me
Versus
too.
Rhino, Tommy Dreamer, and Cousin Jake. So before we actually get into the match, as a whole, I will touch on it here in just this quick 2 minute spiel. Um, as somebody who has been out of Impact for a while, first off, this Cousin Jake, holy shit.
It's
Um,
Jake something if you don't know
yeah,
that.
yep. Uh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Really, really good athlete. Big freaking dude. I didn't
Oh,
realize
he
how big
is.
he was. And along with talking about big dudes with a lot of talent, I want to go over to this Joe Doring, who I've never heard of, and I don't know
Yeah.
how he. Well, first off, the first time I saw him, I dead ass thought it was either Terry Funk or Jake the Snake Roberts. The first time I saw a photo of him on Impact,
Yeah,
I'm like, is that like Terry Funk or Jake Roberts on Impact? Like, what the hell?
yeah, he
And
looks a lot older,
but holy
and just
shit! And
yeah,
the dude works in freaking cowboy boots, like
that would be difficult.
he just holy shit, man.
He's such a big dude, and he moves really easily in the ring. Like he wasn't slow. He wasn't like your classic big shows and stuff like that, where they lumber around the ring and they do their
Exactly.
thing. He was moving like, and sure, he's a skinny giant, but that's kind of how it works now. Like,
Hell, he's a
yeah,
big fucking
but
dude.
yeah,
Um,
this whole match was just
but the six
move, move,
guys,
move.
like the tri camera that they used during it a lot was really nice.
Yeah,
I liked that they tied in a lot of, Dreamer, like this is his life. The pro wrestling is Tommy Dreamer's life.
yeah,
Um
anytime he'd pull out a move, it was by this person and specified to this. Like everything he does is a call out, basically.
it was very good. I literally have in my notes tack spot in all capitals
Oh
with
God,
exclamation points, which to make a point though, there was not a single tack in Eric Young's back, if you
I don't know
noticed.
how he managed that.
He
Either they,
rolled right over him. It's like when we went to a Smash Wrestling show, Control Alt Delete. It was actually our first Smash Wrestling show at the London Music Hall. There was a
yeah,
tack spot featuring Carter Mason and Scotty O'Shea, local Ontario guys, and Scotty hit the tacks from the top rope on his back and never had a single tack stuck in him. And
yeah. It's
and
just
we went up to the ring after we actually grabbed a tack, and it was a real tack.
yeah, it's just he landed, and for whatever reason, either they went in and popped back out how much baby oil he had, or the fucking shirt that he was
Well,
wearing.
yeah, because he was in a full body suit basically was his
Yeah,
gear. But yeah, like EY, I mean, he
he had
rolled
just a
right
bare
over him.
back.
He rolled right over him. But it doesn't take away. And then the motherfucker got the freaking pin,
Yeah, and really freaking on the big dude, cousin Jake, he gets his pile driver,
which
which
looked brutal, man.
his pile drivers are really sometimes they look really really aggressive. But
But
yeah, Violent by Design wins, and it kind of makes sense considering they just got that name. They're going to be on
exactly,
a big push here.
yeah. Um,
We had a bit of a conversation with Swan and Saban, and Moose came in, and they were just like, "We don't trust you." And he's like, "Well, I've been in teams where I hate everybody, and I'll as soon as the whistle goes, I'm all for the team."
I'm
So
a team
that
player, even though I don't like you. Yeah.
yeah, and that was exactly how I even was in playing sports and stuff like that. So I can see exactly where he's coming from. You might not like the guy, but as soon as you guys are on the same team, as soon as that game starts, you got to defend him.
Yep. Next up was the Knockouts Tag Title match. Fire and Flava, Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz versus Havoc and Nevaeh. I, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a good match.
It did not go the way I expected it.
I know there were so many points where I'm like, yep, that's the finish. Oh, it's not. Oh, okay. And then
Yeah.
when the finish finally happened, I was like, oh,
Well,
oh,
I didn't see the finish coming, and I should have now looking back at it again because Fire and Flava was just announced as that tag team. That's
yeah,
their new name. I should have seen that coming. I honestly thought Havoc and Nevaeh were going to take it and in dominant fashion, but they actually got their asses kicked.
yeah. And then
Like,
Gail Kim and Madison Rain coming out presenting the titles was a really nice touch. Um,
although it was kind of weird because it showed them coming down the ramp and they had the belts in their hand, even though Striker and D'Lo had the belts in front of them at one point.
yeah, yeah. They
I was
had
like,
him just before the match.
I was just like, and even during the match, you could see them still on the table. So I don't know how they got the belts to the back, and then like, did some dude just be like, "Oh, they need these"? Like,
Steve, run, run!
um,
But yeah, Fire and Flava won the titles, which is really nice. We
Uh,
had the backstage segment, Rosemary, Taya, Crazy Steve. Basically, this was the back pedal from Impact, and it
yeah,
was
and
like,
doing the
let us be
exact
out
opposite.
there. And then AC Romero sneaks in the women's locker room. So that's got to do with a whole set of segments that I've never seen.
I've
Um,
only seen it since the last Wrestlers Court that happened.
See, I
That
haven't seen any of it. I've seen the video of the wedding where Johnny Bravo, I think it is, gets
mhm.
shot or something. I don't
Yeah,
know. I will catch up on it over the next
I
few weeks, but
yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting story, but it's just I don't really know how else to describe it other than interesting.
Ace Austin comes out because he was cut off on the pre-show, and that leads to Scott D'Amore introducing for his Impact Wrestling debut Matt Cardona. Um,
Yes.
and Cardona won by DQ. Um,
But that was not to say the match wasn't going amazingly
oh, it
before.
was great.
Like Matt hit all of his moves. He hit the reboot and radio silence and everything, and it was just perfect. But then Fulton decided to ruin it.
Yep. But I mean, I'm sure that will lead to something. I'm sure
Absolutely.
it's not a one-off. It'll be similar to
Well,
like the AEW where it was like I signed for 3 or 4 appearances.
yeah, I don't think he's signing a full deal with anybody right now. I think he's just going to appear where they'll ask him to, and forever how long they'll want him. But he won't sign for a year-long deal, probably for at least a little bit.
Oh well, I mean, when you're tied up to a company for like 12 years or more, and you
You
finally
want
get free.
freedom.
But
I
yeah,
love that he went to AEW though
it
first.
was nice. Yeah.
That was the good first stop, and it needed to happen.
But yeah, Cardona won via DQ. And then I have the triple threat for the X Division title next. So what you got?
Yep. Yep.
So Chris Bay, Manik, and Rohit Raju. Holy shit. Once again, I talked earlier about the X Division kicking ass, and I was thoroughly entertained the whole match.
Yeah, there wasn't a moment where I was bored or anything. Like as soon as Raju had a chance to, he pulled the mask off of Manic, and
Revealing just the face paint, which was cool.
yeah, it was perfect. Like of course, TJP had, or I mean Manic, sorry, uh had the idea of just painting his face so that way you can't confirm if it's him.
The
Like, of course
commentary
we
got me
know who
because
it
I
is.
think it was Stryker who was like, "It's TJP," and D'Lo's like, "You don't know that," and like,
Exactly, and that's exactly what
like
you
you
need your
guys.
commentary teams to do.
But that's
They
just it.
need
Like
to buy in.
it wasn't
Like,
it wasn't that I was like, "Come on, like don't play us stupid," but it was Matt Stryker trying. He was the one on like in theory like the fan side where it's like, "Come on,
yeah,
we know it's TJP," and D'Lo was like, "Come on, like you know."
let's be wrestling fans here.
Maybe it's not, and I
Yeah,
liked the way it was handled. I'm sure there was a lot of people who were just like,
exactly.
because like I said, I
Well,
hate when they try to make us feel dumb, but they didn't there because like I said with Matt Stryker was like, stop playing around. We know it's TJP.
yeah,
Like,
like exactly. Like they don't need to murder kayfabe outright, but they need to also acknowledge the fact that their fans have gotten a lot smarter.
oh yeah, oh yeah, but fantastic match. Manic retains.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah, as he should because he's just won the belt. So
So and then next up, I believe, is the Knockouts title.
yeah,
Deanna Perrazzo, Kimberly, Susan, on the one side, Taya Valkyrie, with Decay. There was an absolute huge mess at the beginning of the match outside.
and basically makes it a one-on-one match instead of them both having their managers and all that with
Yeah,
them.
everybody gets ejected. I got a good laugh at Susan, recording it.
Yeah, that
And
was
Matt Stryker calling her Karen, which was fantastic. And
yeah.
she actually posted the video on her
Did she?
Twitter, like calling out like senior referee, whoever. I think was it
I
Brian Hebner for
I
that
think it
match.
was Hebner.
And shit like that. And my favorite is Impact. like tweeted below it to her and been like, you should have shouted World Star, and I'm like, that's hilarious.
That's great.
But really good match again. I
Um, yeah, Perazo locks in the Fujiwara armbar, I think is how you say
Fujiwara.
it,
Yep, from
and
Fujiwara
then
armbar.
has to grab Taya's other arm because Taya turned it into a pin.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, that was such really good storytelling. Like, it was just Taya was smarter than her because she's seen that pit finish before, so she's like, well, okay, well, I'm smarter than you, Taya. Like,
Yeah, very, very good match with Deanna picking up the win there.
yeah.
We had a quick backstage segment with AC Romero and Johnny Bravo talking about him being shot, and
Yeah, and they found AC says he found ring rust cologne in the Knockouts locker room. I'm assuming there's something to do with that and one of the previous segments that you or I haven't seen yet.
more than likely. And then we go into match of the night. Ethan Page versus Karate Man. Um,
Match
I
of the night.
I will be honest, it's exactly what I expected it to be.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
didn't know what to expect, but I was like, it's gonna be some kind of like
so I'm
green screen
actually gonna pull
masterpiece.
up a tweet very quickly. I
Sure.
retweeted it off of the Walking the Ropes Twitter. Which if you
Yeah.
don't follow it yet, go and follow us at Walking the Ropes on Twitter as well as on YouTube and here on Twitch. Uh,
Yeah.
Anyways, so the tweet is from Impact, and it says, so if you're keeping track, Mickey James was pushed in front of a train, the OGs ran over a kid, Luchasaurus had his head smashed with a wrench, Ali was stabbed through the neck, Johnny Bravo was shot, and Ethan Page had his heart had his heart torn out. Welcome to Impact Wrestling.
Yeah, they have been murder heavy, haven't they? They killed Luchasaurus?
They killed Luchasaurus!
That's bullshit. Now he can't come back.
So the thing is it made sense. Ethan Page's
Oh, it
contract's
did.
up. He's done. It
I
wasn't meant to
have
be taken seriously, and anybody who
no.
is taking it seriously, stop.
Yeah, I have in my notes Karate Man defeats Ethan Page via murder.
Well, well,
It's the first time somebody's won a match via murder, so I had to make sure that it was talked about.
yeah, well, Ethan Page, if you're taking some time off or you're going somewhere else, or even if you do come back to Impact, bravo on that. It was
That was glorious.
uh
Absolutely just perfect.
And then this is my note here for the segment because it's basically what it was, and it's not a knock on the segment, but it's what it was. My note says Moose tells Callus to basically fuck off.
Yeah, no, that's basically what happened.
Because yeah, Callus came to Moose and was like, "Yo, we got you for 2 years.
I'd
Do the
hate for
thing."
something bad to happen.
And Moose
Like,
is just basically like, "I'm here to win, so fuck off."
yeah, yeah, basically he's like, once I win tonight, I'm gonna go take the Impact title, and then guess what? I'm gonna come and take the AEW title. And you know what? Please, Moose, take the Impact title and then come to AEW and let Kenny take those two belts off you.
It's
So
going to be, the thing is anybody thinking that this is just going to be a few months? It's not. This
it's
storyline
going to
will
end.
be about a year,
Well,
guaranteed, and it's going to end in a huge way. I don't know how, but it's
well,
going to have a crazy ass build. It will.
I think the finish is AEW absorbs Impact.
I was thinking the same thing, but we'll
I
wait
think
and
that's what
see.
happens.
Um, and
Oh,
then
and then now the actual probably match of the night.
we moved into a match where we were talking earlier about the covering your eyes and like looking through your fingers. Eddie Edwards versus Sammy Callahan in Barbed Wire Massacre.
Like this, I love these gruesome matches. Like one of my favorite matches is JBL versus John Cena in an I Quit match at Unforgiven. Like that's one of my favorite matches ever.
You
So
say
this
brutal.
match to me checks all the boxes.
It
Like
I can't do it justice by talking about it. If you get the chance, like, watch it.
that's just it. Like we can't talk about this match. This is a match you have to go watch.
Like, the
There was
spots were phenomenal. The
There was
finish,
a
the
yeah.
finish made me like,
Well, I mean, and then there's like an N64 controller wrapped
wrapped
in
in barbed
barbed
wire.
wire.
Cause
Like,
why not?
had a blue thunder bomb onto a wire wrapped chair. Like there was
um,
just it was just they looked at these two guys and they said, "Okay, kill each other, but don't like kill each other."
yeah. Edwards dive to the outside, the stuff against the cage. One big bit that I noticed was when Eddie Edwards was hitting Sammy Callahan with the barbed wire wrapped kendo stick. Like it was sticking into Callahan, which, by the way, really awesome. Like kind of civil show of respect in the middle of the match where
Oh
I've got the
yeah.
bat, I've got the kendo stick, handed off with Callahan almost taking out his eye by trying to be cool and flipping the kendo stick.
And then it gets stuck in his hand and he's like,
Well, shit. Here, take it, please.
yeah,
Um,
like it was kind of funny.
but Eddie Edwards wins an absolutely brutal match, which is worth the watch.
Yeah, it hits the Emerald Flosion, which apparently is the move he won a um something he won something in Japan with it, the GWC championship or something like
Okay,
that. Oh yeah,
okay,
it was for Pro Wrestling Noah, the GWC championship.
okay.
Um and that's the move he used to win that, but he drops it onto this barbed wire plywood board
With the
and
chair
Sammy
on
literally
top.
yeah, and Sammy literally just gets peeled out of the barbed wire after the match.
We have Rebellion announced for April. With, if you didn't notice in the logo, the star has the Omega symbol in it.
I did not notice that. What match was announced for that? There was a match that was announced on that, and I can't even remember,
I
wasn't it?
don't believe there was anything announced for Rebellion
Oh,
yet,
I thought they were saying something about that.
but
No, never mind then. Yeah, it must have been something else.
I know people are expecting Kenny and whoever ends up being Impact World Champion at the time.
I was gonna say
That's
they're
where
definitely
that
gonna
match is
finish
being
up the Moose
expected.
story. They're definitely gonna finish up the Moose story with Swan, and that's probably gonna end with Moose taking the Impact title and turning it into the TNA championship, which is a much better looking belt.
It is.
Even on the white, which I much prefer it on black, but
The white
even on
is
the white,
nice though.
yeah. I think I'm the type of person who just prefers a belt on a black strap. But
That's fair.
anyway,
And then into the main event, Kenny
yeah.
Omega and the Good Brothers rocking Bullet Club. Well, okay, so fun fact, Carl Anderson, his tights did not have Bullet Club on him.
Okay,
It was just
I
his
wasn't
sweater.
sure.
Gallows was straight up in Bullet Club.
Oh yeah,
And then Omega
which is
had the
why
Halloween shirt.
yeah, which is why when we mentioned at the beginning on Dynamite section, are they Elite or are they Bullet Club? Because here on Impact, they're clearly Bullet Club.
Yeah.
But
So
so I think this week's Dynamite is going to be the telltale one
more than
where
likely,
they're going to come out in probably either the same gear or they're going to come out in Elite gear, and it's going to be Elite on Impact, Bullet Club anywhere else.
it'll be interesting. I know Tamatonga warned them not to use the name, so that'll be interesting.
I
Um,
mean, but I don't think Tunga has the rights to it though.
no. I believe New Japan owns the rights, but it was
Yeah.
that's not what I meant.
Oh, I
It
thought you were
wasn't a
meaning
rights
like
warning. It was don't
sorry.
use Bullet Club because you're not Bullet Club type deal.
I was thinking you were meaning like he was gonna sue or something. I was like, but he
No,
doesn't have the rights to that.
I believe it's New Japan who has the rights to that. But
Mm.
yeah. So, anyways, Omega and the Good Brothers versus Rich Swann, Moose, and Chris Sabin. Was supposed to be Motor City Machine Guns and Rich Swann. Alex Shelley had unavoidable circumstances. He says not injury and not COVID related, just
Yeah,
very complicated. Which, I mean, hey, they're allowed to have a personal life. Shit gets complicated. Trust me, I know. Um,
exactly. I as with the press release or whatever you want to call it that they released, it was well spoken. Just explain that it's not COVID. That's really all we needed to
hey,
know.
shit happens in people's lives, and
Yeah,
sometimes it's unavoidable. And I mean, he has a right to a personal life and not have to tell everybody what's going
yeah.
on.
They had shown a clip of him. I think it was earlier in the
He
show
they
talking
showed it
about
in the
it.
promo packages, yeah, of him
He
talking.
actually looked kind of upset while he
Oh
was
yeah.
talking. So I worry that maybe something happened with his family or something like that. And
Yeah.
as I don't want to speculate, but I just hope that whatever it is, he can come back and Motor City Machine Guns can go back to being the way they were.
Well, I
Um,
wish him all the best, basically. Going forward with whatever the situation is.
Absolutely,
Hopefully, whatever it is, resolves itself in a good, and speedy manner.
absolutely.
But anyways, yes, the main event: Omega, Good Brothers, Rich Swann, Moose, and Chris Sabin. Once again, it's just a match you need to go and watch.
Yeah, like it's got everything you think it would. Like it starts off with Carl and Sabin locking up, and then they immediately switch out to Moose and Gallows,
Gallows, the
and
big guys,
they literally just
they collide,
like
freaking collide.
the ring's just shaking and whatever. And then without hesitation, something WWE does not like to do, we got the part we wanted: Kenny versus Swan. We got that immediately, which is
Yep.
WWE takes a lot of time to give us that moment in matches like this. Something I really enjoyed. We were given that moment right away. They started just going right at each other, and nobody got the better of each other for, I'd say, the good first 10 minutes of this match. So,
Yeah,
you
it
know,
was pretty even throughout the first, yeah, because I mean match was probably what, 25 minutes at least,
at the very least
at the
25
very
minutes.
least, yeah.
And like Kenny got rolling, but he never got his like classic flow going. So like
Yeah,
as far as momentum and pace goes, it was a very slow match right
it
up until the last few moves.
yeah, yeah, but the thing is it was overall basically what it needed to live up to be, I'd
Yeah,
say.
it did the job. It did exactly what it needed to do.
So and then obviously Kenny and the Good Brothers pick up the win to close out Hard to Kill. I was expecting more, but
Yeah, you and I both mentioned that we were expecting a little bit of AEW crossover
like
with
the
either the
Bucks do
Bucks
something or
or
Moxley or something, but
yeah,
we've got 2 shows a week that shit can happen on.
exactly. And
So
the really interesting thing, Kenny pinned Swan with the One Winged Angel. That is definitely going to be talked about on future episodes of either Dynamite or Impact.
on both, guaranteed.
Well, for sure, but more so on one than the other. I feel like probably on Dynamite more so because they're gonna tout, "Oh, our world champion pinned
Oh
your
yeah,
world
more than
champion." Da, da, da,
likely.
da, da. So, and I'm not saying because AEW thinks they have to be the best. It's just because they will want that information pointed out. Like, but
So
yeah, that's the end of this week's rundown for shows so far.
which I mean, 3 hours. Wow. So we're going to get into next. It's our show ratings. So we rated the shows out of 5 in our own personal opinions. Which thankfully won't take too long to go through. We got a few other segments, and then we're gonna announce what to expect going forward
Yep.
with the cast. But we're gonna run through our show ratings here, starting obviously with Raw. Out of 5, what did you give it?
Raw, I gave a 3 out of 5.
That's
It
fair.
wasn't a bad show, it wasn't a good show, but there was a lot of flat points on it. But there were definitely shows through the week that I didn't, or that I liked a lot more.
That's
So,
fair. I gave it a 2.25, 2.25 basically. I didn't want to put it at like a 50% in a sense.
okay.
Because I felt like there was still points where there, like, I think if they wouldn't have had the whole here's a match and here's a match with the same guys again and then here's a segment with it, and like if that didn't happen 3 to 4 times that night, I probably would have given it like a 2.5, a 50% in a sense. But no, 2.25 for me for Raw.
Yeah, I didn't want to give on my first rating something a 2, just cuz I felt like I was being a little too critical.
Well, just wait
Just
for the rest of my rating.
no, you're Hey, that was I'm just giving my opinion. I didn't want to be too critical as this is our first one. Raw wasn't a horrible show, but honestly, I probably would have given it a 3.5 if it didn't have those finishes that you were talking about.
That's fair. Impact.
Impact was I gave it a 3.25 on just because it was a bit better than Raw, but not a whole lot better.
So you did basically similar to me in the sense I gave it a 2.5.
Okay.
So I gave
So
it
we
it
agree
was
that they were
it
on the
was
same
better
level.
than Raw, but it wasn't leaps and bounds. I felt going into a pay-per-view, which is why I was a little more harsh with it. If it wasn't going into a pay-per-view, I probably would have given it a 3 straight up. But going into a
For sure.
pay-per-view, I was like, you guys didn't like build as heavily as I felt you should have.
Okay.
Especially with such a game-changing main event, a history-making main event. And
Yeah,
then
for sure.
also, I mean, it sucks because I mean the show focuses on the wrestlers and that, but the commentary as well, just which going forward isn't gonna be an issue. So, but yeah, 2.5. Um, Dynamite.
Dynamite, I gave it a 3.75. It was probably one of my favorite matches of the week or shows of the night. So
I
uh,
gave it a 3.75.
there we go.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really did.
It wasn't perfect, but it did exactly what it needed to do. It finished off their New Year's Smash stuff. It was really good. It was just a
Solid
solid,
matches. Yeah.
yeah. And that's just
NXT
gonna be a consistent thing with
pretty
Dynamite, I
well. Oh
think.
yeah, exactly. Other side of the Wednesday Night Wars, NXT. What'd you give?
3.75.
I gave it a 3.25.
Okay.
I just I think the biggest downfalls was basically the fight pit sit down for a match that I was looking forward to because of it being fight pit and because of Champa and Thatcher and seeing Thatcher in the last one, shit like that. I just felt down like that felt like that sit down interview kind of just made it kind of like really blah.
Okay.
And then um just the amount of, and I can understand the build for it, and it's not to completely knock on it, but just the amount of back and forth between Pete Dunne's group and then the Undisputed Era and Balor, and that there was just so much back and forth there through the night. And then
Yeah.
having his group before the main event be like, we're gonna take out O'Reilly, and then them just be like, sure, and then it just blatantly happened.
Yeah, I
I
agree
was
with
like,
you there.
why would you why would you tell us on TV, you know these guys are watching the monitors, they were basically like, yeah, sure, try. And it's like, you guys are in a match. You guys are outnumbered.
Yeah. No, it's very fair.
Why did we go
I
into it like that? Like I said, I do understand the build up, but
yeah, it's just their
it was still one of the
yeah.
better shows of the week. It was.
Oh,
It
for
was.
sure. Yeah. I would rank Dynamite slightly higher, but I gave them the same ranking just because like I was thoroughly entertained on the same level. It's just I enjoyed Dynamite like that fraction more.
That's fair. Um Smackdown. What'd you give?
My, my SmackDown was the only one I gave a 2 I gave it a 2.75.
I gave it the exact same as Raw, 2.25.
Okay.
Because I mean we had the very solid Mysterio Corbin, great commentary aspects.
Mhm.
We had, I mean, Brian and Cesaro, which was once again very good. We had a few decent bits here and there in between, but overall it was just so many backstage segments on a 2-hour show. And I'm like, I get it, Roman's the world champ, but like the fact that I saw something about his segment every 10 minutes over a 2-hour show, I was like, I'm fucking tired of it.
Yeah, and that's why I dropped it down below Raw because as much as the matches I enjoyed on the same level for the most part, yeah, the the actual theatrics of SmackDown was just, it was horrible. It
Wasn't
was
great.
lazy.
It was very much. And then finally to close off the week, we had Hard to Kill.
I gave this a 4, and it was the best show of the week by far.
I gave it a 4 as well. I gave it a
Yeah,
4. I was not giving away my first 5.
nope,
There were still downfalls to the show as much as I want to praise it. There were still some
absolutely.
downfalls. It didn't deserve a 5, but it was out of every show that week. If I were to rewatch a show, I will rewatch Hard to Kill over any of them.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's just it. Like, Dynamite, yeah, probably is the closest one to come to Hard to Kill. But the thing is, Hard to Kill was a pay-per-view. It had multiple title matches. It had great storytelling. It had these fantastic finishes. And it also had just probably the best main event of the week. Probably not if the month
Yep.
so far.
Okay. Well, to not spend too much time, we haven't where in future weeks we will more than likely have actual written down um stuff for this. We are gonna run a few segments here really quickly and kind of go off the top of our head and go off of our documents here. First off, we are going to run match of the week. Very self-explanatory. Out of all the shows, your absolute number one match of the week. Did you want to go first?
Yeah, for me, it's definitely the barbed wire massacre match, 100%. And I mean, to try to justify it, I mean, like I said, I love these kinds of matches. Absolutely adore these kinds of matches. And these two guys just went to war.
They did.
Like,
They did. They left it absolutely all in the ring.
yeah. And so to me, you guys, Eddie Edwards and Sammy Callahan, best match of the week by far.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. Um, my match of the week is easily Ethan Page versus Karate Man.
All
No,
right. Yeah.
I will not do that on our first match of the week segment. I promise. There will be a week down the line where there's some kind of
Where every
match
show just shit the
like
bed and we'll
that,
just be like,
and
nah, it's this one.
yeah. Um, I think the one match I'm gonna give it to Hard to Kill as well. And Eddie Edwards and Sammy Callahan definitely sit at a very close second. The only reason I'm not gonna give it my match of the week, and it's not a knock on it in an overall retrospective of it, but it was the pull for it was the gimmick of it, which it needed,
Yeah.
but that is why I'm going to give the X Division Triple Threat my match
Okay.
of the week.
Yeah.
Because it didn't need and I mean Callahan and Edwards was going to be a draw anyways. Haha, Sammy Callahan the draw. Um,
Yeah.
but I feel like without the stipulation, it wouldn't have been
It wouldn't have been
in
as good.
contention for my match of the week. Where this match, it didn't need it to keep me actually entertained the whole time. And the thing
That's fair.
is 2 out of the 3 guys I've never watched. I've never seen Chris Bay. I've never seen Rohit Raju prior to getting back into Impact now. Obviously
Yeah.
knowing Manic TJP, seen him live, I've met him, I have his autograph on an action figure, I've talked with him.
Yeah.
Um
Exactly.
I know how good he is in the ring. Um so to be thoroughly entertained for that whole match was absolutely phenomenal. But I
Yeah,
definitely
for
give
sure.
Eddie Edwards, Sammy Callahan a close second, and if I had to give myself a third, like a pack in Eddie Kingston. Like if
Yeah,
I
that
just
would
had to
probably
list
be,
3 off the top of my head, like that's it.
I'd say Pack and Eddie is my second, is my number 2, and then my third probably would be MSK's match actually. I really enjoyed that
That's
match.
fair. That's fair. Um, but yeah, like as for match of the week, definitely solid. Next up, I figure we'll go wrestler of the week. out of every promotion that we've talked about, out of every show, whether it was a match or not, what would you give wrestler of the week?
If you have one in mind already, you go ahead. And I'm still thinking here. So if you already have one,
I will gladly, and call me, um call me what you will, call me, predictable. I'm giving it to Kenny Omega. He
yeah,
he is the only wrestler that can, in such a busy week like this, consistently be the best in everything he does.
yeah.
He was consistently the best across 3 shows this week that he was on for 2 different promotions.
Hmm.
Um,
No, that's very fair. Absolutely. For me, I'm only gonna say this one because you already picked Kenny, because I probably would have picked Kenny. Um, I'm gonna go with Moose.
that is fair. That is fair. Somebody who stepped up to the plate when
Yeah,
needed. Yeah, 100%.
yeah. He wasn't even supposed to be in the main event of, at Hard to Kill, and he ended up being probably one of the biggest parts of Hard to Kill.
Well, I messaged you when he did the freaking standing flip. I was literally in awe that that man just, and then we got a Spanish fly from him and Kenny, which I'm
Yeah,
like the setup for it was scary as shit. Moose was shaking, Kenny was
he just
flipping,
hopped up there
and
like
they hit the move, and I'm glad they both came out of it, unharmed in overall.
absolutely.
Um, I mean, yeah, you giving Moose that 100%, 100% agree, 100%.
Oh yeah. Like
Um,
Kenny for sure had the best week, but if you had to pick somebody else, it's definitely Moose.
yeah,
And that's
oh
saying
yeah,
something because all of those guys came off of Impact,
yeah.
basically.
We'll run this even though we've already said it, and it's very
Oh
obvious. Our
yeah,
our show of the week. We're
Hard to
both we're
Kill.
both giving it to Hard to Kill.
Yeah,
If
good
you
on
would
Impact. Like
if you would have to give a second, not for your ratings, um, in a sense, take the ratings away for a second, because I mean that kind of gives the show of the week. But as much as you can rate one show better than the other, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the more enjoyable.
well, show of the week is basically our personal favorite.
Yeah, when
It didn't have to be a statistically good show,
Yeah, when
but
I
it
rate, like, that's what I'll say right now really quickly. When I rate, I'm not necessarily doing it from an overall fan perspective. I'm trying to analyze what really happened in the show, what made sense, the like we've talked about, like, continuity issues and that. Like, that's really where I'm coming from when I'm doing my ratings.
mhm.
I'm trying to take myself out of the fan seat and almost look at it as like a sports analytic sense. Like, which show statistically provided the best content in a way. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
so our show of the week definitely goes to Hard to Kill because it was just
But
across
it's a
the board.
pay-per-view, right? So that's kind of almost inevitable, but then you get like Great Balls of Fire. So,
Yeah.
well,
So, but taking Hard to Kill out of it, and then
because that's
obviously
unanimous.
not focusing on the ratings, what would you give your secondary?
I think I can't classify NXT and Dynamite as either better, but the one that I was most thoroughly enjoyed by was Impact. I
That's
loved
fair.
Dynamite, I loved NXT, but for whatever reason, whenever I would start typing something on for our notes on Impact, I would turn back and something amazing would be happening.
Oh,
Like
that's fair.
and I didn't get like I get that with Dynamite, but just something about I don't expect Impact to give me that. And so I think them pulling that out and surprising me almost every time they could is why I give it that.
That's fair. I will surprisingly give it to NXT.
I almost gave it to NXT.
Um, cause like, not to put it in a way over Dynamite. Dynamite was solid.
It was.
Um, but I find on shows where it's one match heavy in a way, so tag team heavy, in this sense, it has to be pulled off right for it to be
Yep.
good. Because if it's heavy on six man, heavy on tag team, heavy on this or that, if it's not done right, it is just a bunch of matches with a bunch of guys that didn't that fell flat.
Yeah.
NXT, taking out the little issues I had, um, consistently match for match kept me intrigued. The main event, like I said, you got Breezango, who they were
Yeah.
tag champs and whatnot. Maybe I've been out of it for a little too long, but they're still at a base level, kind of like a comedy gimmicky type thing,
Yeah, exactly.
pulling off like one of the best matches of the week.
Against
Undisputed Era.
yeah, which is one of the best tag teams uh units in wrestling world.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like,
So that was amazing. And we're gonna finish off here so we can also talk about what's to come here real quick. Uh, we're going to make bold predictions. One bold prediction regarding a show this week. So normally we're gonna do predictions for the following shows and whatnot, like a normal prediction, like what do we expect. For the bold predictions, basically something out there that, whether you read it on the dirt sheets and you hope it will happen, something like way out there, almost like a good example would be predicting Edge returning to the Rumble last year, right?
right.
Something that was rumored, something that you want to happen, but something that at the time was like, it'll never frickin' happen. Bold prediction for the week, one prediction, any show. You got something?
We've been kind of juggling it the last little bit with Impact and Dynamite. I don't know exactly which one it's going to be, but I feel like Impact might get the Bucks finally coming over.
So it's funny because my prediction also is Impact. Similar thing. I honestly think we're gonna get Omega and the Good Brothers in the ring, gloating their win. I beat the world champion of your company, blah 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 blah. And I'd almost lay money on it that
Okay.
Moxley comes out, and I think it's going to incite the war, the actual war that is needed, and it's not going to be a matter of where Impact and where AEW. It's going to start to become a matter of you guys versus us guys.
Yeah, because we already have a cross promotion tag team of Good Brothers and Kenny. So it's not going to be Impact versus AEW. It's going to be Don Callis versus
The wrestling industry.
exactly.
And I think
That
it's going to be Mox that kicks that off.
yeah, that's very fair. I
So,
think it might be the Bucks though, just because the story wise for with Kenny and Good Brothers, it makes
oh yeah.
a bit of sense.
Hey,
But
that's
it's
why it's a bold prediction. It's exactly
yeah,
why.
we'll see if either one of us is right.
So that was walking the ropes for the week of January 11th, 2021. That was a very very long show.
It
We're
was.
going
We
to
apologize.
finish it up here real quick with just a little bit of a like here's what's to come. So starting as of so we will have a similar cast like this next Sunday at 1 o'clock.
Yep.
Um
Probably try to shorten it down quite a bit, but
well, we won't have a pay-per-view to cover
exactly.
and that. So we're going to do this again, and then starting after that, that way we can avoid doing 4-hour casts, and like when you start to involve stuff like the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania coming up, though these casts get even longer. We're going to start actually doing these through the week based off of the shows.
Yep.
The general idea is at the moment Tuesdays at probably about 1 o'clock will be Raw coverage. Thursdays will be Impact, NXT, and Dynamite. Saturdays will be Smackdown coverage, and then we will probably do a nice little recap most Sundays, um, of
Yeah.
just basically the week that was. There are some other ideas that we are back and forthing on for other shows that we want to do, but that is the generalized idea starting next week, not this week, but next week. Those shows will generally air at 1. But obviously, we have lives, things come up. So the easiest thing you can do is check out our schedule page on our Twitch, as well as follow the Twitter page at Walking the Ropes. And we will basically post the most up to date stuff there. Um, as well as one final note, generally after the shows on our Twitter, we post polls going forward starting next Sunday when we are reviewing our ratings in that. We will start using your polls as well um,
Yeah,
going
we'll do like a
forward.
fans voting, what was the best show sort of thing.
So so make sure you check that out. The stream the polls run for 24 hours after the show if they are posted on time. Which
Yeah,
has been a
exactly.
little bit that hasn't been, but that will get more consistent as we go. But yeah, make sure you follow us on our Twitter, follow us here on Twitch, and you'll get alerted when we go live. We both have personal Twitters if you want to follow. Not that I post a lot, not sure you do, but they're there.
Yeah, they're
Uh,
there. We post when we are going live, pretty much, and that's about it.
and all of our VODs going forward will be available on our YouTube, Walking the Ropes as well. So if you ever want to catch a previous stream, you will be able to find it there.
And I think you can watch them on Twitch too,
You can
as
watch them
well.
for I believe it's 60 days.
Is it okay?
So if it's no longer on Twitch, if it's been archived, it will be on our YouTube and whatnot. So, but anyways, other than that, I think that was a pretty good edition of Walking the Ropes here.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And definitely a lot longer than the last one, but we got into so much more detail about everything, and this was just so much fun. It flew by.
Exactly. So yeah, that was Walking the Ropes. I still love that my nickname on my border there is a wrestling intellectual. You are wrestling's resident heckler. And I'm pretty sure that says a whole hell of a lot about us. So
Yeah.
thank you everybody for watching. And yeah, next Sunday at 1 we will be live again for the next edition of Walking the Ropes, and just watch our schedule going forward. But beyond that, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Take care.
Bye.